Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, special guests. Welcome to the regular council meeting of Tuesday, June 18th. Although it's a regular council meeting, it's almost a little bit of a special council meeting today, so thank you all for coming. I'll call the meeting to order. We have on the agenda items 2, 3, and 4 for closed session, so we're going to do that at the end, so we're going to move them to the end of the agenda. So we'll call the open session to order, and I'll ask you to stand if you can and join Councillor Elmsley in the singing of O Canada, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and with Canada Day fast approaching, I expect everyone in here to sing loud and clear and drown me out. O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all our sons' command, with glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Well done, thank you. Please, item 5.3, please join me for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Item 5.4, adoption of the open session agenda. Councillor Richardson.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Vail, that the agenda for both the open session and closed session of the regular council meeting of Tuesday, June 18th, 2019 be adopted as circulated and with the following amendments. Addition deputations 11.1. Mandatory drinking water connection requirement, Paul Grassi, item 12.4.7 on the agenda. 11.2, shoreline road allowance adjacent to the 8, Black River Road, Dalton, James Rogers, item 14.1.2 on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor? That's passed. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in either the open session or the closed session later today from any member? Seeing none, thank you. Notices and information by members of council and staff. Is there anyone on council has anything? Councillor Elmsley, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Coming up in Fenelon Falls on the long weekend, July 1st, on the Saturday, June 29th, Midnight Madness will take place from 6 to 12 p.m. Most of the stores will be open. There will be bands. There will be all sorts of activities. If people are looking for something to do on that Saturday night, they can come to Fenelon. And on July 1st, Canada Day, activities start about 3 o'clock in Garner-Graham Park. And at the museum, lots of things to do for the kids. There will be a band on hand, as well as fireworks, of course, at dark. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of council? Councillor Seymour Fagan.
Yes, I'd just like to give a big shout out to Bigley's and all the people that came out for a walk for the cause. They raised over $30,000 for the walk-in clinics in Bobcaygeon. And we also have Canada Day in Bobcaygeon and a parade and fireworks.
I heard that happens around a few different communities. Councillor Riley?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Summerama, which is a quarter horse show, they're going to have 3 of them at the Lindsay exhibition this year. The second one will be Saturday, June 29th through till July 3rd, and the horses come from all across Ontario, Western Canada, and the Northern United States. This past weekend, they also had the Power and Antique show out there that was very well attended. Wednesday, June 19th, the Kawartha Lakes Community Development Futures is having their annual general meeting upstairs in the Victoria Room here at 4 p.m. The Japanese Consul General, we're expecting here today. I'm sure she's either on her way or maybe caught in local traffic, is hosting a dinner this evening at the Admiral Inn, and basically there's going to be, the government of Japan will announce there's an award for a foreign recipient for 2019 at this dinner tonight. We just had the Raptors win yesterday with the parade, but we had more of a local flavor. Vince Dunn from Lindsay played defenseman for St. Louis Blues. Won the Stanley Cup last week in his first year as a 22-year-old in the NHL, which is very great news. And also Canada Day at Wilson Fields with Pat Dunn and I share here, and Councillor Dunn, and was more in your ward than mine, Pat. But anyways, the usual things with a petting zoo, and there'll be a band, and probably be after Finland between 4 and 5. So,
Thank you. Councillor Ashmore.
4 announcements. This past month, the Walk for Dog Guides in Omemee raised over $8,000 for dog guides, and these dogs take a cost between $20,000 to $25,000 to train, and with the help of the local volunteers and sponsors, that segment of the dog guides raised the $8,000, which was great. Congratulations to them. Tonight, the Dunsford Library Speaker Series features the Frost Brothers, tonight, June 18th, at the Dunsford Community Centre. Once the Premier of Canada's most populous province, Leslie M. Frost, enjoyed escaping from political life and his family's property in Pleasant Point, a small lakeside community near Dunsford. Now his interest in the area, deep interest in the area, and his history will be told in the latest talk to be presented at the Kawartha Speaker Series, a project of the Friends of the Dunsford Library. On June 18th, Brian McFadden, a retired Fleming College professor who has written many pieces of local history, will bring Leslie Frost's spirit back to the area he loved. So the aim of the Kawartha Speaker Series is to help Dunsford and its library on the map, keep it on the map, highlighting the area's rich heritage, both natural and historical. All are invited to attend the second talk in the series to be held at the Dunsford branch, located at the Dunsford Community Centre from 7 to 9 tonight. And this coming June 23rd will be the 9th annual Bobcaygeon Bike Fest, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., free admission, live food, great food, live music, great food, 100+ vendors, show and shine, limited edition tees, swag, rain or shine, a new tradition in an Ontario summer playground. For vendor space inquiries, call Crazy at 705-793-1751, otherwise known as Doug. 705-793-1751. And this Canada Day weekend in Omemee, there'll be a multitude of events. On Saturday, June 20th, the Lioness Pancake Breakfast at Coronation Hall at 8 o'clock to 11 a.m. Tickets are $8. And there'll also be Omemee Blooms Garden Club and a Kawartha Bees Roadshow. Omemee Beach Activities, the Open Washer Tournament, Omemee Lions Club Barbecue, and the Omemee Legion Beer Garden. And Omemee, not to be confused with the Daytona 500, Omemee will have its own version called the Daytona 750, which is, the race begins at 1 p.m. at the Omemee Boat Launch. Tickets are $5, available at Coronation Hall Countryside Pharmacy or Butternut Folk Art or the Omemee Veterinary Hospital. The prize is $750. And later that day, there'll be an Omemee Legion barbecue. On Sunday, the Omemee Legion Beer Garden continues, and barbecue. And then on Monday, July 1st, Canada Day, the Omemee Legion Beer Garden continues. Omemee Lions July 1st celebrations, evening in the park, 5 p.m. Kids are free barbecue treats and handouts. 7 p.m. Black Fly Band and live entertainment, and fireworks at dusk. That's good.
Thank you. I already have the winning duck, so just so you know. Is there any other members of council announcements? Seeing none. Any members of staff? Seeing none, item 8 is matters from closed session. We'll obviously do that at the end of council. Item 9.1 is the regular minutes of the May 21st, 2019 regular council meeting and the May 28th, 2019 special council meeting be received and adopted, please. Councillor Elmsley, seconded by Councillor Seymour Fagan. All in favor? That's passed. And we will move right into presentations. We have a couple of special presentations today, and certainly none more special than the Accessibility Awareness Recognition Awards for 2019. Always a pleasure to welcome everybody here. Councillor Vail, Andrew Vail is our councillor rep on the committee, and he looks like he's there ready to go. So I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Kawartha Lakes Accessibility Advisory Committee introduced the Accessibility Awareness Awards program to Council 12 years ago. To date, 63 awards have been presented to recognize those in our community that have gone above and beyond to enhance the lives of people with disabilities. Today is most certainly no exception as we express our gratitude and congratulations to 9 additional recipients. Before we begin the presentation of the awards today, I wish to acknowledge the members of the Accessibility Advisory Committee present today. Chairperson of the committee, Crystal Morrissey, Vice Chairperson, Linda De Silva, members Sharon Copeland, Marianne Fitzpatrick, Scott Howard, Jane McLean, Elizabeth Peters, Norm Price, Joan Skeleton, Ken Van Otler, Andre Oboomswan, and I think that's the end of the committee. So at this time, I'm going to turn the mic over to Elizabeth Peters, who's going to go through the awards.
Thank you, Councillor Vail. Good. Our first award is Outstanding Contribution by an Individual. Appleseed Quilt Works. Appleseed Quilt Works is a local business example of what creating accessible spaces can do for customer and tourist attraction. Sandra Faulkner, owner, went above and beyond with the modifications of the property. She made the difficult decision to reduce retail footage to install a fully accessible covered entryway and accessible door. A customer has been so impressed with the accessibility features of Appleseed Quilt Works that she travels past several quilt and fabric stores to make the hour-plus trip to Lindsay. This customer, along with family and friends, now make Lindsay a destination for their day trips. Our first award goes to Appleseed Quilt Works.
Looking good.
For almost 25 years, Margaret Downing has been making the lives of Crescent Care residents better. No matter what she is organizing, she is always thinking about ways to include the most residents as possible. Whether that means searching out large print bingo or playing cards, or ensuring that transportation to events is accessible, Margaret goes beyond so that the residents can have a great time. Margaret thinks about who will be involved in an activity and then thinks about all the obstacles and possible solutions. As 2 residents said, it may not seem like much to have a larger print bingo card, but for many of us, it's the only way we can join in the fun. Margaret is making the lives of residents much more enjoyable and fun-filled. Margaret Downing, individual.
And our next award is the Outstanding Contribution for a Community Group, and this is being awarded to Community Care, City of Kawartha Lakes. Community Care Cedar Kawartha Lakes offers a myriad of services for residents throughout our area. Included in these services are adult day programs that allow elderly and disabled residents to come together, socialize, and participate in various activities, while at the same time giving their caregivers much-needed respite. Meals on Wheels and other food programs allow residents to enjoy healthy food in their homes, and foot care clinics are held weekly for elderly and persons with disabilities. Community Care, along with Hospice CKL, conducts a variety of support groups, both in person and by teleconference, for residents facing stroke, cancer diagnosis, suicide, and more. Another valuable service that is available to residents is the transportation program. Volunteer drivers can be booked to take clients to day programs and appointments, allowing clients to preserve their independence. The specialized transportation uses a fleet of wheelchair-accessible vans that offer the same service to individuals with physical and/or cognitive challenges. The vans can also be used for non-emergency transfers between hospitals and home. The transportation programs of Community Care allow clients independence and caregivers much-needed rest and relaxation. Community Care of Kawartha Lakes is definitely breaking down barriers for residents with disabilities. Outstanding contribution, Community Group, Community Care, Kawartha Lakes. And we have a second award winner today for outstanding contribution for a community group, and this is for the Rotary Club of Lindsay. Rotary Club of Lindsay is one of the community's longest running and most active service clubs, supporting a wide range of local, national, and international causes throughout the year. Included in the club's many great works is the Adults with Disabilities Committee, which considers requests for assistance from local residents who require support due to special needs and challenges. Recently, through collaboration of several groups and organizations, including the Rotary, a local resident, Ken, was able to receive a technology device to assist him to read. The OrCam 02 is an advanced wearable AI device for the blind and visually impaired that allows the user to read text, recognize faces, and identify products. The Rotary Club was able to provide a portion of the price of the device, but their assistance did not stop there. Under the leadership of the committee chair, John Coxon, other organizations were contacted and the funds were raised to purchase the device. Ken is now able to access so much more, and it's making a huge difference in his life. The Rotary Club is dedicated to helping residents meet the challenges and to remove barriers to their independence and their capabilities. Outstanding contribution, Community Group, Rotary Club of Lindsay.
Our next award is for Outstanding New Build or Modification. The Pie-Eyed Monk Brewery is a new business in Lindsay, and their facility, located on Cambridge Street, exemplifies the possibilities for accessibility in an older building when businesses are motivated. While keeping the heritage of the building, the accessible features are impressive. The changes start at the front door with an accessible walkway, wide door that has push-button capabilities. An elevator was installed to allow access to the second floor, where you'll find washrooms all fitted with push buttons and wide entrances. To ensure that all customers would be comfortable, tables were made to an accessible height, allowing patrons in wheelchairs to be able to comfortably eat in the restaurant. Many times, accessibility is said to be impossible for heritage buildings, but the Pie-Eyed Monk Brewery has proven naysayers wrong. Outstanding New Build or Modification, Pie-Eyed Monk Brewery. We have a second award for outstanding new build or modification. Kawartha Conservation is a watershed-based nonprofit organization founded in 1979 and is one of 36 conservation authorities in Ontario. Kawartha Conservation believes that nature should be accessible to everyone, and the organization has taken significant steps in recent years to focus on creating a more inclusive environment where everyone, irrespective of any challenges they may face, is able to enjoy, appreciate, and embrace nature. Throughout 2017 and 2018, a number of upgrades to the administration building and the Ken Reid Conservation Area have created a wonderful environment for those in the community, particularly with mobility challenges, to be welcome to the area and enjoy the outdoors. Accessible washrooms have been installed at the beach area at Ken Reid and in the administration building. As a result of a generous private donation, the McLaren Marsh viewing platform was reconstructed, as well as a fully accessible platform which is connected to the main road through a newly constructed accessible trail. To allow guests to visit the conservation area conveniently, 2 accessible parking spaces have been built. In early fall 2018, the first participant using a wheelchair joined staff for a forest bathing excursion. The accessible trail and viewing platform allowed the visitor to be fully involved and take part in the session. These projects are just the beginning of what the Conservation Authority has planned to ensure they're an inclusive organization, welcoming everyone to experience, embrace, and enjoy nature. Outstanding new build or modification, Kawartha Conservation.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay from here? I have the pleasure there, of presenting the next 2 awards. I work with these staff people that I'm going to introduce you to, and they've been all instrumental in making things more accessible at the city, and I'll read about it. In 2018, the Communication, Advertising, and Marketing Division concluded its significant efforts to oversee the complete overhaul of the city's 4 major websites, including the main corporate, tourism, public library, and internal employee sites. From the onset, the team emphasized the need for accessibility on all sites to reduce barriers for anyone using the sites. The team made accessible documents on the sites a priority, and to that end have provided resources to staff and contributors on how to make accessible electronic documents. New web pages and site features were designed in an accessible manner, and the team's oversight of staff modification of existing pages ensures all final versions are published correctly. This aspect of the project is no small task, and the team's efforts have gone a long way in ensuring that a corporate atmosphere of accessibility is promoted. Congratulations to Communications, Advertising, and Marketing Division, and believe me, their job is never done. Our next employee is Brenda Stonehouse. Brenda has been instrumental in facilitating the public consultations and committee liaisons for successful and inclusive preparation and acceptance of the most recent City of Kawartha Lakes Accessibility Plan. In addition, Brenda is working to provide a comprehensive review of the built environment standards for the city through her facilitation of the Built Environment Standards Task Force. Through Brenda's leadership and facilitation, the internal and external customers have been heard. Brenda has been a champion in facilitating involvement by all community partners relating to the city's customer service delivery. Thank you so much, Brenda. Thank you. Congratulations. And Councillor Elmsley, thank you for offering to read the final award recipient,
Thank you very much, Barb. It's my very great pleasure to be able to take part in this ceremony. Steve Strangway and I were on council together for 12 years. We're very good friends away from council, and sometimes on council. We even agreed with each other. What I can tell you about Steve is that he has inspired and shared his paramount leadership skills with Kawartha Lakes and is being recognized for his true compassion to others. With a career background in education, he's a leader whose openness to people, ideas, and opportunities. He communicates with sincerity, transparency, and true feeling, and one is never worried to approach him with your thoughts, ideas, and visions. He inspires others to dream more, learn more, do more, and embrace the concept of change. Whether he was involved in formulating recommendations from the Accessibility Committee, tasked with speaking to city staff to resolve an issue, or advocating at the council table, he did so with a strong and clear commitment to the change necessary to improve the lives of all people. The youth, couples, raising a family, those living in poverty, and those living with disabilities and the aged. Steve was a board member of the Fenelon Falls Independent Living Association, both prior to and while he was on council. He's an active member of the Probus Club, and he was part of 10 committees and boards of council, as well as being on the board of community care for a period of time. He keeps himself very busy, as I'm sure Marion would be able to tell anybody. And of course, they have been together for 50 years, and I think she should get an award for that as well. He is a person who is instrumental in the achievement of the work plan goals for the Accessibility Committee. He inspired other committees and boards to think about accessibility when developing programs, policies, or working on projects. By doing this, he was creating a culture of accessibility throughout our organization and throughout our community that is evident today. Now, I must tell you, he is not perfect. He is a lifelong Maple Leaf fan, and one would think after 53 years you might want to revisit that thought. Also, you know, sometimes through the mouths of babes we hear the truth, and I remember hearing a story. They were teaching their grandson how to be safe around water, and they were down on the dock, and they asked him, "All right, how can you be down here on this dock?" And he responded, "I have to have on my life jacket, and I can be here with any adult or grandpa." So it kind of says it all. Steve is currently retired from his political career to spend more time enjoying family life with Marion, son Jim, daughter Sarah, and their 3 grandchildren, but not without first providing a foundation that will lead us well into the future towards the goal of being the most welcoming, accessible, and inclusive community in Ontario, one where people will be able to live, work, and visit with comfort, respect, and dignity. Today, we recognize Steve for his 12 years of leadership and support as council liaison by presenting him with the Barbara MacArthur Award of Distinction. The committee is forever grateful for the contribution he has made. Congratulations, Steve.
Just like old times. First of all, Doug, thank you for those kind words. I hardly recognized who you're talking about. On a very serious note, I was thinking today about this award and how humble and honored I am to be here. But I kind of feel like the goalie who's just won the Vezina Trophy, and without his team, that just doesn't happen. And when I look back at the 12 years I spent on the Accessibility Committee, you know, we had a wonderful group on the Accessibility Committee, and I couldn't get over the growth that I saw in the awareness of accessibility. Barb Condi came and provided the leadership for the group, and I saw a real, shall we say, growth change as council went on, and their awareness of accessibility and their willingness to support accessibility within the city. So it was the staff, it was the members of the Accessibility Committee, and Barb Conde, and those are the people who all deserve tremendous recognition because of you know, what we have accomplished in the city, and I thank each and every one of them, and I'd also like to thank all the award winners today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so we wanted to take a photo of everyone here, and Councillor Vail and Mayor Leffen, if you would join, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. We're very proud of our accessibility committee and the businesses and the volunteers and everybody who makes that work in our community. You truly do make it a better community to live in. So I'm very pleased to go on to our next presentation, the Lindsay Naoro Twinning Committee presentation from Takako Ito, the Consul General of Japan from Toronto. It's wonderful to see you again. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, and hello to all the distinguished members of the City Council of Kawartha Lake. My name is Takako Ito. I am the Consul General of Japan based in Toronto. But my this jurisdiction includes the entire Ontario except Ottawa region. So I'm very happy to talk about Japan-Canada relations, but especially for this particular year to celebrate the 50th anniversary of twinning between Naoro and Lindsay. I'd like to focus on doing business in Japan, with Japan, and also some information regarding Naoro and Lindsay. So please take a look at the slide I have prepared. Okay. Why Canada and Japan relations are so important? I'd like to emphasize 3 points. First, Japan and Canada are sharing the values and the common visions for prosperous and peaceful world, such as democracy, human rights, and free and open economy, rule of law, etc. The second, Canada is a major developed country which is politically stable and increasingly interested in Asia-Pacific. You are a member of G7, G20, APEC, and recently, Japan and Canada both have become the parties to CCTPP. We have just made an announcement that Japan and Canada will start the effective AXA. It is an acquisition and supply and service agreement between Japanese self-defense force and the Canadian military. So we welcome such an increasing interest in Asia-Pacific by Canada. And thirdly, Canada has abundant natural resources and advanced technologies and industries, including the well-developed service sector, which Japan is looking for as a good partner. Just have a quick look at Japan and Canada in terms of data comparison. For population of Canada and Japan, Japan is almost 3.5 times bigger than Canada. But in terms of land mass, Canada is 27 times bigger than Japan, and just Ontario alone is 2.8 times bigger than entire Japan. So the population density of Japan is 100 times bigger. But in terms of the GDP, we have about 3 times bigger than Canada, but GDP per capita, Canada has more GDP per capita. For the energy self-sufficiency rate, Japan is very poor. Only 8.4% is self-sufficient, while Canada is very abundant, 174.4%. And food self-sufficiency rate, Japan can supply only 40% by ourselves, but Canada has 264%. For the industry the composition, both countries has well developed about 70% service sector. While Japan has 20% of manufacturing, Canada has 10%, but Canada has a good 8% in mining sector. And agriculture, Canada has good 2%, while Japan has only 1%. Both countries has a very long life expectancy, over 80 years old. And political system, we have a similar constitutional monarchy. We have emperor, while you have a queen of Canada, and the independence of judiciary, legislation, and the executive. In terms of economic relations, we have more or less balanced trade, but for the direct investment, we are the biggest Asian country to invest in Canada. Canadian investment to Japan is slightly less than 10 billion. In entire Canada, we have about 838 Japanese companies, and about 1/3 of them are located in Ontario. What are we importing or exporting? Imports from Japan include automobiles and mechanical appliances and industry machinery, etc. While from Canada, we have a lot of mineral resources, iron ore, or the food such as oilseeds, meat, and the cereals, etc. As a trading partner, as you may know, United States is the biggest partner for Canada. For the import, US has over 50%, while Japan is the fifth partner and have only 3%. But for the export, you even have more to the United States, 75%. Well, Japan is the fourth partner and only 2%, and I believe there are more chances for us to expand the trades between Japan and Canada. For the automobile industry, we are proud to have the two major Japanese companies continue to produce their automobiles in Ontario, Honda and Toyota, and they have been very strong, and they not only produce for the Canadian market, but also they contribute for the export to the United States. And that is not just the two companies, but they have various subcontractors, which also provide various employment in this province. I'd like to talk about Japan's economic strengths. Currently, Japan is going through the steady growing economy under the Prime Minister Abe, who took the office in 2012. Before that, Japan was called that we have lost 2 decades of a weak economy. But after the new government has come in, we have strengthened, and the reverse of the economic strength is seen now. As we can see, the nominal GDP is grown. Number of employed persons increased 2.5 million, and among which 2 million at this statistics was taken was female laborers. But the latest one, last March, I was told that about 3 million women are now newly introduced since 2012. Corporate pre-tax profit as well as tax revenue have also increased, while our unemployment rate is currently 2.4%, one of the lowest, and we are actually facing the shortage of a labor force and open for the new immigration, the new foreign workers to come into Japan to fill in this lack of workforce. One of the economic strengths of Japan is its large and sophisticated market. Although our land is so small, 1/27th of Canada, we have the third largest economy in the world. And many companies which have their headquarters in Japan say the massive size of market is very, very attractive. And just think about a little region of Kanto, which has the Tokyo and neighboring prefectures. They have the GDP which is bigger than Canada or bigger than Russia. So if you're successful in the Japanese market, you can also very, very successful in the world market as well. Another strength we are proud of is our emphasis on research and development. Our research funding as a percentage of GDP is world #1, and so is the number of researchers per 10,000 people and number of patents registered. Also, we are proud to have successive Nobel Prize winners in the area of science and research. We are also known to be very, very business-friendly in terms of the infrastructure. We may have wrong prejudice that Japan is everything expensive, but actually, in terms of the transportation cost or the high-speed internet fees, or even the real estate, Japan is not the highest in the world. The New York, Beijing, or the London, they can have higher prices, and we are now offering better economic policies. Now, we are also very proud of the transportation infrastructure, world famous bullet train or Shinkansen. They can travel about 280 kilometers per hour, and average Shinkansen delay time is 36 seconds. Annual operation is like 120,000 trains. So we are very proud to have this kind of a system to be introduced in Canada as well. Well, this is just a map of a subway system that we have in Tokyo. We have 9 subways run by Tokyo Metro, the private company, and 5 by provincial government, Tokyo Metropolitan Government, and also a lot of private railways connected to subways. So that would move the people, not only 14 million Tokyo residents, but also other additional millions of people commuting to and from Tokyo. Also, we are very, very safe and peaceful country. As a global peace index, we are ranked as #1 in the world. And in terms of the safety, Tokyo and Osaka are first and the third safest in the world 50 big cities. And many companies also say the social stability in Japan is a strength of Japan's business environment. Although Canada is quite safe compared to your southern neighbor, but our crime rate is much, much less. And we have a nice and friendly police box to give you some help when you have problems or when you're just looking for some place to go and want to know the direction. In order to invite foreign business, the government provided various incentives, such as investment procedures shortened, where residency examination is accelerated, and indefinite period of stay for highly skilled foreign professionals, etc. And what the Japanese companies are looking for when they are thinking about overseas expansion. One of the important issues is the market size and the growth potential, as well as highly educated skills population. And also the various elements are included. I'd like to touch upon the CPTPP, Comprehensive and Progressive Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. It became effective as of December 30 last year, and we are already seeing some growth of trade, especially from Canada to Japan, in terms of agricultural products such as beef and pork. But we see this arrangement is not just a trade itself, but also more investment, government procurement, a movement of people are also benefiting from this arrangement. I would like to introduce Japan External Trade Organization, JETRO, whose office is also located in Toronto. The Toronto office of JETRO covers entire Canada, and they are ready to help you to promote the trade and investment between Japan and Canada. And some of the services that JETRO can provide is to information on business expansion, also creating business opportunities by providing networking or finding the needed human resources, or just give you some places to consult in Japan or the Japanese companies here in Canada. And you can also have temporary office spaces in Japan in the 6 different cities until your companies have some places to stay and start the business operation. I'd like to mention what is happening in Japan this year and next. This year, in June, we have G20 Summit to be held in Osaka, Japan. And also in August, we have Tokyo International Conference on African Development, TICAD. That is the 7th time that we invite all the African leaders to come and discuss with Japan and other international organizations about the development of that continent. And for the first time in Asia, we are hosting Rugby World Cup from September to November. And Canada is one of the participating countries, and we hope to see Canada and Japan to do well. Next year, of course, we are hosting Olympic Games and the Paralympic Games. I would also like to mention about people-to-people exchange that the government has been promoting. Japan Exchange and Teaching Program is going on over 30 years, and we would recruit the young people who have university degree to come to Japan as an assistant English teacher, or if the Japanese is good enough to work as a coordinator for international relations in Japan. They are well paid not only for the salary, but they also they have good communication and support by the government and by the accepting local municipal government. We also have a national government scholarship for the undergrad as well as graduate school. Not only the tuition is free, but they also paid for the substantial amount of money for living expenses, and sometimes they can go outside of the town for the tour. And Kakehashi project is a short-term exchange for the high school or university students to experience Japan. In Ontario, we have 14 arrangements of sister city relations, and Nairo Lindsay is one of the oldest. Just to look at the figures of Nairo and the Kawartha Lake City. The population of Nairo is less than 30,000, and it's much, much smaller compared to Kawartha Lake, but both are based on agriculture and a very it's a productive area. And also both cities have strengths in education. Nairo has the post-secondary Nairo City University. I'm proud that I came here last summer when the Nairo delegation was visiting the Kawartha Lakes and having the 49th anniversary of the twinnings. And I provided the hours of Consul General's commendation last year. In order to have more knowledge and experiences of Japanese culture in Ontario, I'd like to mention that there is a Japan Foundation in Toronto, which is conveniently located at the corner of Yonge and the Bloor Street. And they provide various free cultural events, have a library service, and language courses, and the rental of video as well. And Japanese Canadian Cultural Center is also providing various activities. Currently, they are hosting Toronto Japanese Film Festival until June 27. Canada-Japan Society and the Japan Society are two other organizations. And of course, our Consulate General of Japan in Toronto is ready to serve your need and your willingness to know and work with Japan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was very interesting. Were you going to hand out any award today to anybody? Did you want to?
Yes, Your Worship. I would like to, actually, on behalf of Japanese Emperor, we have a special commendation to Miss Heather Newman. First in Japanese. 日本国天皇はカナダ国人ヘザー・リンゼイ・ブラックウッド・ニューマンに旭日装甲章を贈与する。皇居において辞をおさせる。令和元年5月21日、内閣総理大臣安倍晋三、内閣府将軍局長大塚幸宏。So Emperor of Japan will commend the Canadian national Heather Lindsay Blackwood Newman, the Order of Rising Sun with ribbons at the Imperial Palace at the presence of Prime Minister Shinzo Abe.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Wow. Very nice.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you. Exactly. Thank you. Sure.
On behalf of Council, I would like to thank Council General for coming to our city today and for your presentation. There's a number of the, first of all, congratulations again, Heather, for your award today and for your many years of leadership on the Twinning Committee. I know there's a number of members from the Twinning Committee here. So I see some of the students are here. I see Robin Callahan, Dylan Robichaud, Leanne Thornberry, and there may be some other students or parents that are also present today that have had the experience. And so thank you very much for coming. I look forward to seeing you at dinner this evening.
So we're going to move from those two special presentations to an environmental assessment report for the Mill Pond Bridge. So in Omimi, and I know Mr. Juan Rojas, our Director of Engineering and Corporate Assets, I think David Bonsal, the Vice President and Manager of Structural Engineering, DM Wills Associate. Welcome, sir. And you're up. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mayor Latham and members council. As mentioned, my name is Dave Bonsall. I'm with company DM Wills. We were hired by the city to undertake the class environmental assessment for the rehabilitation repair of Mary Street East Bridge, affectionately known as the Mill Pond Bridge in Omimi. I put together a short slide presentation here, so we'll just flip through if I can get this to work. There we go. Some of the background of this bridge is actually quite interesting. As we went through the environmental assessment process, we retained the services of a specialist heritage and archaeological firm. And so some of the top photo there is a picture of the original timber structure. It dates back to, on record, 1877. And that bridge was replaced sometime around 1952, 1953 with the current truss bridge. Of interest, that truss actually was donated by the county. It came out of service in Little Broad River Bridge in Bobcaygeon and was repurposed at the current site in Omimi. It's a single lane structure. It carries two-way traffic, just in a yield to oncoming traffic scenario. The site location's in the figure at the bottom right of the screen. In 2017 was when this structure was first, or more significantly, noted for rehabilitation or repair, and the city at that time had went through their budgeting process to initiate this EA with the hopes to do the rehabilitation repair work in 2020. So going through the planning process, we had a public information center at the Legion in Omemee in February, and we had some really good conversations with some of the local residents and people in the community that had taken the time to come out. I'll give you some of the information on the next slide here, but unfortunately what happened is that one of the, from the PIC, we kind of came back and understood that there was a couple of important things that the community wanted to see. One was separation of the pedestrians off of the structure. It's quite a long bridge, and if people are walking, they become open, I guess, to vehicle traffic, which is not good. And the other thing was they wanted to see the two-way traffic maintained at the site. We also had some interactions with some volunteer firemen, and they'd indicated that they haven't been able to use that bridge for some time because of the load posting, which we felt was a bit of a liability from the point of view if there was ever a closure on Highway 7 and they needed access, that they would be very limited in terms of equipment. So one of the things that we wanted to do through the EA is go back out to the field and revisit the truss and specifically look at the integrity of the elements of the truss, and to see if there was a way that we could repurpose the truss as part of one of the alternatives and maybe strengthen the truss by removing some weaker elements and putting something stronger in its place. And during that investigation, which happened in May, we noticed that actually some of the key truss components were in fact deteriorated to not being continuous any further, and that led to the closure of the bridge in May. This is a flow chart right from the Municipal Class Environmental Assessment Planning document. I apologize, it's very small, but I just wanted to show you the structure if you haven't seen this before. But the EA process is a very, kind of streamlined, I would say, but dictated process. And so the phase 1, 2, 3 thing is really about identifying alternatives, sharing that with the public and agencies and getting feedback, selecting the alternative that is most preferred, whether that's financially, environmentally, all kinds of inputs go into the selection. And then ultimately, the preferred solution gets communicated out to the public in a notice. If you successfully get that 30-day notice period completed, then the council would be free to budget and proceed to construction at their discretion. So right now we are in the process where we've identified a preferred alternative, and we're seeking council endorsement of that alternative so staff can go ahead and place the notice of completion and get on with the budget process and detailed design. This is kind of why we're here. So these are some photos. There's 3 spans of this bridge, which are concrete deck on top of some steel girders. That's what you're seeing in the top left. And then there's the main truss component that was, like I say, repurposed. That truss is about 68 years old, I think, in this location, and we don't really know its age prior to that, but it certainly has served the communities that it's been located in very well. But the condition is such that something has to be done, and so that's obviously why we were here. So at this public information center, there was some maps or some kind of figures that went with this slide, but I'll try to explain what they are. There's 5 alternatives that were identified and evaluated. The first of those was simply to rehabilitate the existing bridge in its entirety, the truss and the approach spans, but to add a cantilevered sidewalk or some type of ancillary sidewalk to the bridge, so that we could separate vehicles and pedestrians. And really fundamental to this was to try to maintain the truss from a heritage and aesthetic point of view. The second alternative was to rehabilitate the truss, basically the same alternative, but in this option number 2, we wanted to get rid of the vehicle conflict. We know the traffic volumes in Omemee are growing. We certainly see in the early morning and late afternoon people avoiding the main intersection and using Mary Street as a through flow. And what this alternative was trying to do was get the bridge just set as a one-way traffic only, and it would have been one way in the westbound direction. If you were eastbound, you would have just went up to Highway 7, made a right, made the next right, and you would have been back on your way again. Alternative 3 was really just to close the bridge to vehicle traffic and maintain it as a pedestrian bridge only. It's very much a park setting, and it would have probably worked as that, and you have a vehicle bridge maintained by the province literally a few hundred feet away. Alternative 4 was really remove the structure and replace it with a modern, 2-lane structure bridge. It would have meant all the side clearances and safety requirements that you would have in a new construction. Effectively, it would have been equal to or better than the Highway 7 structure if you had have applied all of the new code practices. So this was a very significant undertaking. And the last option was simply to remove the bridge, decommission the site to through traffic, and restore the natural kind of park setting, and rely on Highway 7 for traffic, vehicle traffic, and pedestrians for that matter. From the feedback we got through the PIC, there was really, like I say, a strong influence of maintaining two-way traffic and separating out pedestrians. Some of the heritage components in that came into play, but where we landed on really as far as the solution is to rehabilitate, reconstruct the existing bridge geometry with a separate sidewalk facility. Just this is a long list of agency consultation, but it's a very unique site actually from Ministry of Natural Resources point of view. So there's everything from fish sanctuaries there to an operating provincially owned dam. So as we move from environmental assessment into detailed design, there will be a very robust approval process that will be followed, and some permits that the city will have to obtain to move to construction. And this is really just a very basic kind of assessment as far as the evaluation, but what we were saying as we move through the alternatives, just as a reminder, one was repurpose the existing site, and what we're saying is it meets the problem statement. It has a medium sort of cost consequence. Alternative 2 was just same thing but with one-way traffic, so it has basically the same cost. Alternative 3 was to trying to remember here, actually just reopen it to pedestrians only, and we felt that didn't meet the problem statement. It didn't provide the redundancy that you might need for EMS and that kind of thing. 4 was to rebuild the massive bridge, and of course it has a significant cost and environmental impact, and the elevation of the bridge would be much higher from a flooding point of view, so it probably would require property purchases and a bunch of very kind of impactful solution. And the last one was simply to remove the bridge, but again, low cost, but didn't really meet the problem statement. So this is, I apologize, hard to read, but this is the configuration of the bridge. The top is just the satellite, photo looking down. The hatched part is really just trying to illustrate the additional width that would be required for a sidewalk. And of course, the elevation is the truss at the left bottom, and then the 3 spans of concrete frames that make the approach to the east. And this is illustrating the cross section, but really what we're trying to show here is this cantilevered sidewalk that would get added both to the truss and to the existing concrete section. So the difference really, I guess, that's what happened between the Public Information Center. Public Information Center was a lot about refurbishing the truss to the extent possible and trying to get load posting up so that we could get fire trucks back on it and that kind of thing. With the more detailed investigation that we did, we really would suggest that there's no value in the truss. Like the members are effectively deteriorated to the point where they can't be refurbished. So what the alternative solution will look like is a sympathetic design. We would go back out to the market and have somebody manufacture a truss that's very similar in appearance, but has a lot more conformance to the highway code, bridge code, and get the load posting up, not to a full highway loading. We're not suggesting that the city would embark to get this up to tractor trailers or anything like that, but simply to a comfort level where your fire department can access it, propane vehicles, kind of normal traffic that you would expect on the street. So it would still be load posted. We haven't determined what the appropriate load posting will be, but that's something that we'll work with staff and some of the, like I say, EMS to try to figure out. And so that's where we are. So we have a project file. That's sort of the formal submission to the Ministry of the Environment and Culture, and Climate. And so that's in a draft format right now. We have some last minute notices and things that we'll receive from the public that'll get into that document. But really we're asking at this point for a council endorsement of the preferred alternative. And with that, staff can proceed with the notice of completion and get on to budgeting and construction of the bridge.
Great, thank you. We'll see if there's any questions. I have a quick question. Your option 3 that you're proposing in the report is not matched with your option 3 up here, correct? Because your option 3 up here says to close it. Close bridge to vehicular traffic and maintain as a pedestrian bridge only, but in the report, that's not the option 3 that's being endorsed. So are they're separate?
I
that a Juan
haven't
question?
seen the staff report, so
I'm just trying to make sure we've got the right recommendation. Go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. So the report ENG 2019-011 recommends option 3, which is the reconstruction and maintain two-way traffic with the added pedestrian cantilever, which coincides with alternative solution number 1. So option 3 is alternative 1.
That's what I want to know. Thank you. We'll get a motion to receive. We'll see if there's any questions. Councillor Elmsley and Ashmore. You had a question, Councillor Elmsley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess obviously the ultimate solution would be a two-way bridge with a pedestrian walkway. Do you have any costs on or estimates on what that would cost as opposed to a single lane bridge?
we did have some costs. I don't have the information with me today. We did have some information at the Public Information Center. Given it's a very complex site, so just simply to give you a cost number, I think would be absent of understanding all of the agency, the flood implications with the dam. Right now, we know that if the Pigeon River was to totally overtop, from a dam safety point of view, I think the water is, almost 2 meters over top of the existing bridge. So you can imagine, the type of elevation you have to construct to and all the ancillary costs associated with purchasing and removing homes and that kind of thing. You'd be in the $5 million range.
$5 million. But how long do you expect the bridge to last? I would say, 75 years, in that range?
No, that's a good number. The code right now requires 75 years unless the owner selects something different. Yeah.
So we're building a structure that's going to last 75 years. I'm just wondering if it's prudent to build a single lane bridge when we're building something that may last 75 years. Should we be looking further down the road and saying we should do something different? And I don't have a good feeling on which way to go. So
Not sure why you're looking at me. I think they had a public meeting and
Because I'm supposed
most
to
of the
address
public,
everything
most
through
of the public was in favor of the maintaining the bridge as it is with two-way traffic and a single lane. They just wanted from the feedback I heard, they just wanted the separate walkway for a sidewalk that was cantilevered. Did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, just to clarify, the design solution that will come with this is to reutilize the in-water piers and the existing abutments. And so the bridge that we will design will be compatible with that age and that life. So it will not be a 75-year design life for this alternative because you're really putting it on some infrastructure that won't last that long. So I would suggest this would be more like a 30-year sort of design life.
30-year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ashmore, did you have a question that you wanted to follow up on?
Question, please. under the preferred alternative, what would be the weight restriction for the load on the bridge? Like how many tons would it hold for vehicles?
As I mentioned, that's something that we want to work with staff to determine before we get into the detailed design stage. But the idea here is to eliminate the current posting, which I believe was 15 ton, and put it back into, that single unit, truck, I'll call it, like your moving van, fire truck, ambulance, all those kinds of vehicles, so that they can make use of the road.
Could I just comment on what my thoughts were? From what the comments were, if you read in from the public information meeting, the vast majority do support the single lane two-way. I mean, if you look at a two-lane, you'd be looking at $1 million, $1.5 million more, I would think, if I could just ask that through you. It would be at least $1 million more to do a two-lane, a double-lane bridge.
Yeah, I would suggest you're going to be in a factor of 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can say categorically 100% here that the vast majority of the people are quite happy, quite grateful that they're going to replace the bridge with the single lane two-way with a pedestrian walkway. So I mean, I think this is the best alternative here, and I'd move this motion as the preferred alternative.
Okay, we're going to move the report up. Let's just deal with the presentation. Are there any other questions for the deputant and the consultant while he's here? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate that. We have a motion to receive. All in favor? That's passed. So what we'll do while Mr. Bonsall is here is we'll move item 14.1.1 from the consent agenda, which is the report that goes with this presentation. The report recommendation, the environmental assessment project report for Mill Pond Bridge be received, and that council endorses a preferred solution and preferred design identified as option 3, reconstruct and maintain two-way single-lane traffic flow and add a separate pedestrian walkway as developed by DM Wills in the April 2019 environmental assessment project report for Mill Pond Bridge. Will you move that, Councillor Ashmore? Thank you. Seconded by Councillor O'Reilly. Is there any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's passed. Thank you. You got a follow-up?
Just all I was asking for was for staff to be in touch with Ministry of Transportation to see if we could get, just for the temporary traffic to move around Omimi. There's been some issues from the east to the west, and when you get out of, there's Hughes Street and then there's Queen Street, but Queen Street, if there was a temporary light on Highway 7 at Queen Street and Highway 7, just until the bridge is closed, that would really help. If it was in sync with the light in Omimi. If staff could communicate with MTO, see if they could get that light put there, that would be appreciated. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, I could do that, sure.
Thanks very much. I think this is a great, it's certainly, it's a win-win, and people are more than happy with just replacing that's there, and it'll be a brand new bridge, single lane, two-way with a pedestrian, and it's certainly, they'll be happy with that when it's replaced, and appreciate your support.
Thank you. Okay. That's that. We're going to move right into our deputations. Thank you for coming, Mr. Bonsall. Appreciate it. 11.1 is the mandatory drinking water connection requirement. Paul Grassi, regarding item 12.47 on the agenda. Mr. Grassi, welcome. Thanks for hanging out with us for a while. Didn't give you much choice, did we?
No, you didn't. That's all right, sir.
Welcome. Go ahead. I'll just remind you that you have 5 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, first of all, my name is Paul Grassi, and I am here to speak against the mandatory drinking water connection policy that presently is in place in the city of Kawartha Lakes, and ask that it be changed. When I retired in 2006, my wife and I purchased a home and property on 322 Highway 36 on the east side of the highway, knowing it was serviced by a well. A former parishioner of mine is a well driller. He came and checked the well for me and found it to be very adequate, full of lots of good water, and no problems. And in years since, it's never ever gone dry. In October of 2017, I received a letter from the city of Kawartha Lakes informing me that because we lived in close proximity to a city water line and near a fire hydrant providing fire services, I was required to hook up the city water and would have to pay for the cost myself. Thinking a mistake had been made, I contacted the Waterworks Department, and after reminding them that I already paid for fire services on my property taxes, I was told that mandatory water connection was still required. And as of January 2018, I would be charged for water even if I did not hook up. I believe this policy is wrong and needs to be changed for the following reasons and in the following ways. In terms of a new home being built, it makes good sense that they should be hooked up to city water if that water is available. But for an older home like ours, which has been using a well service for many years, I don't think this policy should apply. According to property records that I received when I purchased our house, this well has been in service since at least 1947. Of course, if it ever went dry or went bad, we would hook up to city water. But to have to do it now just because we're near a water line, to me, does not make any sense. We also discovered that the closest city water line to our home is on the west side of Highway 36. We live on the east side of Highway 36, which means a line would have to go under Highway 36 to reach our home. I can only imagine what that would cost. I really can't. But I have to tell you that the most infuriating part of this whole process or procedure or policy has been this. We're being forced to pay for water that we do not get, do not ask for, and do not need. And first of all, I asked myself, when and why was this policy ever implemented in the first place? In 2006, when our home was purchased, it was not in place. Then suddenly, 11 years later, we are told we have to pay for water we don't get. In my opinion, you may not agree with me here, but in my opinion, to be charged for water you don't get is not only wrong, it's a moral question. It's morally wrong. I can't accept it. For the year 2018, we received water bills totaling $364, and we've already received our first 2019 water bill for the sum of $178, all for water we've never received. Now, for a city that has a budget of a couple $1 million or more, that's not a big deal, I suppose, for you folks. But for senior citizens such as ourselves, living on a small fixed income, that 2018 water bill would pay for half of our natural gas heating costs for 1 year. It would pay for our hydro for 2 months, and groceries for more than a month. And with the increase in the price of goods coming our way because of the carbon tax, another increased cost is going to make it all the harder to budget on a fixed income. So for these basic reasons, and for others that may affect other homes, I strongly believe, and I am asking that Council revisit this policy and amend it accordingly to exclude older homes such as ours, which have always been serviced by a well. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll just get a motion. We'll see if there's any questions for you. If you just want to stick around, the deputation of Paul Grassi and the supporting correspondence regarding the mandatory drinking water requirement be received, please. Councillor Dunn, seconded by Councillor O'Reilly. Are there any questions for the deputant? Seeing none, all in favor? That's passed. Thank you. Your item is on our agenda later today.
Great.
So thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. 11.2, we have another deputation regarding the shoreline road allowance adjacent to 8 Black River Road in Dalton. Mr. James Rogers, welcome, sir. Regarding item 14.1.2 on the agenda, and I'll just remind you, Mr. Rogers, you've already been here at council once, so you have 2.5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry I'm a little unprepared today, and I actually I'm unprepared because I was waiting for a letter back from land management in regards to this purchase of it, and I actually just got it when I came here today, and I can see why they sent it to my address in Royal Road, where I've been for 4 years. So anyways, I just read it, and it looks like that they're not in favor or of me purchasing the shore allowance. I just want to bring a couple things to bear here. I moved up here. I lost my wife in an accident. This is where I moved up to retire. And I have had my house built, and I spent a large sum of money to have it built to make it so that it is accessible for me to move around my house. My garage was built so I could go into my garage. I am living by myself. I have caregivers that look after me, and the whole idea why I'm trying to purchase the water frontage there is so that I can put ramps down to the water edge and go swimming and, you know, and try and have a reasonable life of what's going on. There was a lot of communication problems in regards to me purchasing this waterfront. They seem to want to call it shoreline allowance, but the way my property is virtually, there are two pieces of land. There's the abutting between the two counties, which is accessible from the Black River Road down to the water. And then there's virtually my backyard of the 66 feet, which also touches the water. I have never ever, since I've started this back in 2015, said that I wanted to stop people from getting down to the river. We have the Cub Scouts camp on the Little Big Eddy waterfall all the time. My neighbors and I go over there and clean the beach up every spring, and it's nice to see them out there having fun and enjoying the water. I am a little concerned that people can come into my backyard and stand in my backyard, and I'm sure anybody else would be a little upset if someone stood in their backyard. That's not what I'm trying to do, and that's not what I've proposed, and it doesn't seem to be coming across properly. There is access to the right of my property over 66 feet from the road right down to the water. There is a place where somebody could walk their canoe down and get into the water and do whatever they wanted. I have never ever tried to stop people from doing that. I've tried to make it so that I can utilize the waterfront, and I don't want to put a wooden ramp down to the water's edge that is not on my property that I don't own. I also just found out the last year that you people are taxing me for waterfront property, which you're now telling me is not my waterfront, and it's open to the public. So you really can't have it both ways. If you want to tax me, and it looks like Impact has sent me a thing for over $2,000 saying I'm waterfront, but I don't own the waterfront, then I expect the town to say that, yes, it is not my waterfront then, and to justify my taxes accordingly, which is not what I want. I'm quite happy to pay for the frontage, still allow access to people who want to go out to the water's edge there, and allow me to do what I need to do. And I think it's a win for the town also, because I will get what I need for my own needs. It was funny, and I'm here today, that you're dealing with accessibility and everything for the handicapped, and that's why I'm doing this, is for me. It just so happened that you were dealing with it today. I just am trying to do that for myself, not stop anyone. If you've been to my property, and that's why I thought that the committee was coming out there, I mean, I've spent a ton of money. We have turtles come up onto our beach. I make sure that no one's digging holes on our beach when the turtles are there. We're very acknowledgeable. I made sure, and I spent a large sum of money talking to all my neighbors, that they were all in agreement of what I was doing. I made sure, and had my lawyer check, that they all have deeded access across my property, so that anyone in my facility or my area, we are not cutting them off from nothing. Matter of fact, my little dinghies are down at the water's edge, and I leave the keys in for my neighbors to use. I have a great bunch of people that are around me, and I have never once tried to cut anyone off from the water's edge. I would like council to reconsider, and if they need more information or more aerial shots or whatever it is that they need so that they can truly understand or come down and look at my property to make sure that I am not trying to impose that no one can come down to that water's edge, I'm more or less asking them not to be in my backyard, virtually. There's tons of 66 feet to the right of me, and I'm just asking them to allow me to the 66 feet behind me. That's all I'm really asking for. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Appreciate that. We'll get a motion that the deputation of James Rogers regarding the shoreline road allowance adjacent to 8 Black River Road, Dalton, be received, please. Councillor Yeo, seconded by Councillor Seymour Fagan. Are there any questions for the deputant? Seeing none, all in favor? That's passed. So your report is on our agenda later on today. I believe Councillor Yo's extracted it. Is that correct? So we'll have a discussion about it, and we'll see what happens.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. So let's take a quick 5-minute break. It's 2:30. We'll come back in 5 minutes, and we'll deal with the reports. Okay, I think we'll call the meeting back to order. Okay, we're going to move to item 12 on our agenda, which is the Committee of the Whole. 12.3, the only extraction I have from the Committee of the Whole is Council Ashmore extracting 12.3.14 Incubation Pilot Program Funding Support. Were there any other extractions from Committee of the Whole? Yours are already extracted. They're already in a separate section. We pulled them out as per the conversation at Committee of the Whole. So if there's no further extractions, then I need a motion that the minutes of the June 4th, 2019 Committee of the Whole meeting be received and adopted. Save and accept 12.3.14 Incubation Pilot Program Funding Support. Is that right? Is that what you need? Got a motion for that. Councillor Helmsley, yes. Seconded by Councillor Richardson. Any further questions? All in favor? That's passed. 12.3.14 from Committee of the Whole. Councillor Ashmore, your motion? Your extraction?
I'll move as printed. No problem with the initiative. I just had a question on...
Okay, so move it as printed?
Yes.
Let me get a seconder, and then you can, Councillor Vale, go ahead.
Thank you. And like Mr. Mayor said at a meeting, I think it was last week in Bob Cajun, or the week before, that this money's been sitting there for many years, and I'm glad to see it going to this fund. So my question was, how quickly can this be expedited, and how's, as an innovation center, where will it be located, and how, what's the time frame for the whole thing? That's all I was asking.
Director?
Yeah, thanks through you, Mr. Mayor. The incubation center, if the funding goes through and the grant goes through the CFDC, they're looking to set up an office in the summer. They haven't got a site in mind right now. They've looked at a number of different sites. It's certainly within downtown Lindsay that they're looking at. They're looking for a prominent location that's visible from the street, preferably. But they have certain criteria. They're looking for about 7, space for 7 new innovation businesses. So they have some criteria in mind, and they are looking right now.
That's contingent on the CFDC funding, right? They've applied, so the other 50% is if the grant goes through, we'll fund up to a certain amount. So once they hear from the grant, they'll probably have a better idea. So, all righty. So we have a motion on the floor as printed. All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. Okay, we have several items extracted from the Committee of the Whole minutes. We'll deal with them individually. First one up is 12.4.1, High Water Bill Adjustment Mandatory Service Connection 63 Victoria Avenue North in Lindsay. Councillor Dunn, you wanted to speak to those?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'll move that as printed, and if I get a seconder, I'll explain it.
As printed, to offer the one-time exemption. You get a seconder. Councillor Yeo, go ahead.
Okay, we've been approaching this, in my opinion, in the wrong way. We have to start looking at water as being a cooperative, because the only ones that pay for it are the people that consume it. And there should be no difference between a consumer, because they all pay the same rates, and they should all be treated equally. So in my position, it's a case of fairness. A very small portion of every single bill you pay goes into the kitty, and if in fact you have some sort of traumatic shortfalling at your residence or at a residence you rent, you get a one-time relief. This is what this person has applied for. They've applied for the same rights we give everybody else, except for the people that live there don't own the property. And if we want to treat everybody equally and fairly, we've got to apply that criteria to this. Because ultimately, we say, yes, it's an income-making property, but the person that lives there is ultimately the person that pays the cost. So this one here, just let me find the details on it. I got them all organized here. I just got to... This was a result of a leaking toilet. And it shouldn't matter whether it's my leaking toilet or the leaking toilet of a tenant. A one-time exemption should be applied to everybody if we want to treat everybody fairly. It's the recommendation, there's two recommendations that actually came out of this particular one. One was a recommendation that they be given the one-time relief, which is 50% of the overage. It's not that they get to get it all back. They get 50% of the overage of the bill, which is determined on a 3-month base or a 3 billing basis. So if you have a dramatic increase, you get 50% of that back. It was a leaking toilet, and it really shouldn't matter whether it's my leaking toilet or the leaking toilet of somebody that's living in the house that doesn't own the house. I think we have to treat everybody fairly. It's the recommendation of the committee. It's exactly why we're there. A further recommendation that came out of this committee meeting is that we adjust the policy so it actually applies to all users, not just users that actually own the property. Because in so many cases, everybody starts out in life quite often renting, and then they save up enough money to own the house. And we shouldn't be penalizing people because they don't have the down payment to buy a house simply because that's what our policy says. Our policy's wrong. Our policy should be adjusted. There is going to be a report generated to make that adjustment, but in the meantime, I ask you to support this and grant the relief.
Thank you. Councillor Yeo, do you want to speak to it?
Briefly, I'll speak to this one. I know there's several coming up. Councillor Dunn is exactly right, and I have voted against these things at committee, and I have to realize that they come to committee because the policy in my mind is basically, it's a faulty policy. So I think we've kind of come to an agreement that we will hold off doing any more of these until we fix the policy, at which case these won't come to committee. Then they'll be taken care of at a staff level, and then the truly abnormal ones will then come to committee, and the meetings won't be so long and onerous, and let's just get it fixed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor O'Reilly?
I can't support this for a couple of reasons. First of all, I agree with the previous councillors that the policy has to come forward and be adjusted, because I don't think that it is proper the way it is. Not a comment against the committee, it's just that I think the policy has to be revised. First of all, I don't feel as though just because you apply, you automatically get it. I think you have to qualify it. It isn't just a given. Because first of all, as I mentioned before, we've been a landlord before. Lots of times we pay the water bill as a landlord. It's all included with your rent. Other times tenants pay the rent, whatever. But as a landlord, I took the responsibility. I could have put the money in the bank rather than decide to get in the property owner business. When I got in the property owner business, there's risk. So it was my understanding and my responsibility, I felt, as though that I had to assume that risk and whatever. So I can't support this. I will support policy being reviewed, but at this time I can't support this one.
Thank you. Councillor
Vail? Just further, my feelings are along the same lines. I agree that the policy is the issue, and the policy needs to be updated and corrected. And it should include commercial and landlords and such. But I don't think that we should be passing things before that there's a policy in place. Again, to make sure that it's equal across the board. We're going to pass something today, and that might not be reflective of the policy that comes forward that we may or may not pass in the future.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Dunn, Councillor Yeo, you got something else you want to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to that point. The point is that I realize we're going to bring the policy back, but the point is they're here because they don't fit policy. And we, 9 around this table, that's why we're here, to waive policy in situations like this. So don't get hung up in, oh, it's not the right thing to do. It's what we're here to do. We're here to represent the ratepayer. I've gone through a month of phone calls and turmoil where we're not doing our job anymore. We're falling down. The balance between looking after the municipality and representing the ratepayer has swung way over here. So it's time we pulled our heads out of the sand and started doing what we're here for, under the Municipal Act, represent the ratepayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Richardson?
It's through you. I'm going to stand up here because I'm new and I don't understand how this whole water billing policy is working. And is there any examples from other municipalities that we can learn from? Like, it's just a question. I don't understand it. So I'm standing up here today saying I need some more clarification.
No, and I think that's a fair comment, and I think the review of the policy, you know, I'm not going to support these requests. I said it at Committee of Adjustment. You know, I think we need to put a criteria in place. I think, you know, what Councillor Yo's saying to a certain extent is correct. We need to adjust the policy, and we need to give staff some leeway to make some of those credits if we have them. And maybe when a review of the policy, one of the things that can be brought forward is what do they do in other municipalities. The problem we have here is we have no criteria. We're just granting everybody that asks an exemption to the water bill, and that's where I have a problem. We have, as a council, yes, we represent our ratepayers, but we represent all our ratepayers, including the ones who pay their water bills, and these costs go on everybody else's water bills, and sometimes we lose sight of that. So I'm all for adjusting the policy and trying to put a criteria to it so that if you meet a certain criteria, that, you know, there is a one-time policy in place that, you know, with the right criteria, our staff can exempt you. If you don't agree that they're not going to exempt you for whatever reason, then come to council and make your plea. Just, that's what council does around this table, as Councillor Yo says. We exempt policy in certain circumstances where staff don't have the authority to do it. Right now, we're caught between two. So I don't think we should be approving any of these. I think we should be getting the policy to come forward. Let's put a good criteria around it, and then everybody sort of knows where they stand moving forward. And whether they want to come back after, you know, we have a new policy in place or whatever. But I think we're going about this backwards because we don't have any criteria right now. We're just granting everybody that asks an exemption to the water, and that's not doing any of our ratepayers a favor, except the few that are showing up and asking to have their water bill waived. So I don't have a comparison for other municipalities right now, but I'll ask Councillor Dunn if he wants to sum up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. Everybody that comes before the committee does not get approved. The only ones that come to council are the ones that are approved. So this fallacy that everybody that comes before the committee automatically gets approved, it's not true. And we also don't approve them at the rate that they ask, because sometimes they come and ask for 2 or 3 months, and it's not within our policy. To help out Councillor Richardson, what we have is we have a policy, a one-time policy. As long as you own that property, you have one chance. If your water bill goes awry for some reason, and you go in and you find out what that problem is, and you fix that problem, and you come to us and you can say, this is my problem, I fix it, and you're a property owner, we'll give you 50% of the increase of your bill back. Or actually, we give you a credit for it, and we take it off your next bill. We don't actually give you the money. That's what happens if you're a property owner living in your own house. But if you're a tenant living in there, and all tenants end up paying the water bill, because no landlord says, these are my costs, but I'm not going to charge you for these costs. So all tenants pay for the water bill. The last thing is, I've just heard 2 councillors and the mayor say, there's something wrong with the policy, we've got to fix the policy. Everyone said that. In the meantime, we have people suffering under the old policy. So let's give them the relief that they deserve and get the new policy back quickly so that we don't have to go through this every single time. Thank you, and I ask you to support the motion.
Thank you. Everybody's clear? 12-4-1. Sorry?
Recorded vote.
Recorded vote requested by Councillor Dunn. Madam Clerk?
Councillor Dunn. Councillor O'Reilly.
Please use your microphones.
Opposed.
Councillor Seymour Fagan.
Opposed.
Councillor Yo. In favor. Councillor Richardson. Councillor Ashmore.
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Elmsley.
In favor.
Councillor Vale.
Opposed.
Mayor Latham.
Opposed. It helps if you use your microphone before you speak.
Failed.
5 opposed, 4 in favor, motion fails. We do need a motion that the report be received and that the one-time exemption be denied, I guess, is the second. Councillor Riley, you'll move that. Councillor Richardson, you'll move that. Second that. Thank you. All in favor? That's passed. Item 12.4.2, Councillor Dunn.
12.4.2. Thank you. I'll move the recommendations, and if I get a seconder, I'll explain this one.
Move it as printed.
As printed.
Thank you. Councillor Ashmore, you'll second that. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one here is we had a catastrophic failure at Kelsey's. They ended up shutting down for 3 days. What happened, and I'll give you some background, is they noticed they didn't have any water, so they went down and they had a break in the water line, and they shut down for 3 days. Kelsey's, just like everybody else, pays into our water cooperative because it's a cooperative. Shut down for 3 days, lost all the business, plus it cost them thousands and thousands of dollars for repairs. There's no reason why a commercial business that hires people and provides a service to this town shouldn't be treated exactly the same as everybody else that lives in this town, based on the fact that they don't live in their store. I ask you for your support.
Thank you. Councillor Ashmore, do you want to speak to it?
Thank you, yeah. Similar lines of what Councillor Dunn had just said there. This business came to the committee, and the policy is there. It's all written up, and then we just abide by the policy. If they come, they make a good case, and they did make a good case, and we granted this credit. Just a question through you to Director Stover. Am I correct to say there's around a little over $11 million of revenue that we get from customers for water in Kawartha Lakes? Around 11 million? That's what you said there in an email one time before. Roughly about that. Yeah. So $11 million that these people are paying the freight, not just commercial businesses, but residences. So they're customers, they're clients, and we just have to, when they come to this situation, this is why we listen to them, and this is why they plead their case. They give us all the statistics, and they show us why that they're asking for this credit. So I just think it's logical that we give it to them. So just tell them that, we understand this is a one-time thing. Remember, it's a one-time, and that's all they're going to get. And I appreciate the support.
Thank you. Councillor Yeo.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. This one at committee was really one that I thought was different than the rest, because it was something that was a commercial enterprise, which the policy is really kind of silent on commercial properties. The policy says point blank that multi-tenanted properties doesn't apply to them. They can't get it. Commercial properties, kind of silent on them. It doesn't say they can't get it, doesn't say they can get it. So this one lost thousands and thousands of dollars of business, lost thousands of dollars in repairs, and thousands of dollars in water. And we're looking for a little bit of a reprieve from all that turmoil. And so committee, and in good conscience, committee granted this one, and I totally agree this one should go through, and I hope you will support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor O'Reilly.
First of all, a couple of questions to members of the committee. Did the people say, the people from Kelsey's say that they actually had contacted insurance, and did they get money back from the insurance for the loss of water, the loss of business, the loss of water? Did that come to committee? Can you recall?
I don't recall.
I heard non-recoverable, but I don't know if that.
Yeah. Because I've talked to 2 or 3 plumbers that work for commercial tenants, and the plumber said to me, quite often if there's a fire, they're contacted, and it's their responsibility to shut the water off. Not 3 days later, not 2 days later, not 4 days later. They're contacted, the fire's there, their plumber's contacted, and they come and they shut the water off. So they just said that they felt, in their real opinion, they weren't the plumber for Kelsey's, but do a number of commercials, they felt that's the responsibility of the owner to contact them, and they should be shut off the day of the fire. That's just my information.
When you sum up, if that's okay.
Speaking against it.
I would think and without knowing, I would think they would have business interruption insurance to cover, I don't know if it covers every water leak, but when you're shut down for 3 days, that's what business interruption insurance is. Just for clarification, Councillor Yeo, Section 8 of the High Water Bill Adjustment Policy provides one-time relief for instances similar to those that occurred at this property. However, Section 8.3 specifically states this section does not apply to commercial, industrial, multi-residential, and income-producing residential properties or leaks as a result of irrigation systems. So it is fairly laid out that it doesn't apply for that. Is there any, Councillor Yeo, you want to comment on?
Yeah, I just had some information as regards to Councillor O'Reilly. During the meeting, the proponent did say that the hot water tank, which was the cause of the problem, that stuff was all covered under warranty. It was a loss of business and stuff they were more interested in, so this information.
Thank you. Councillor Dunn, you want to sum up?
I just kind of lost track of my thought for about 2 seconds. We never specifically asked him the question, but he described it as a loss. The plumbers were there. It was the plumbers that found where the problem was, and what happened is the lines went under the floor and up to the hot water tank. When the first hot water tank stopped producing water, they got a new tank where they found that it had been burnt out. The second hot water tank wouldn't produce hot water, wouldn't fill up. And at that point, the plumbers and the owners by then went through the system, found out there was a leak under the floor, and found the leak and fixed the leak. So that answers the question about whether or not a plumber was there. A plumber was there, and a plumber took all the appropriate actions. It's still the fact that because of that, there's an exaggeratedly high water bill. Whether or not he had insurance on water in particular, I don't know. We never asked that question. But he did represent everything he had there as a loss. And we're talking in the tens of thousands of dollars of loss. So I still ask that you support this motion.
Thank you. Okay, that was a sum up. We have the motion as printed on the floor. Recorded vote requested by Councillor Dunn. Madam Clerk? Please turn your microphone on before you speak.
Councillor Yeo?
In favor.
Councillor O'Reilly?
Opposed.
Councillor Vale?
Opposed.
Councillor Dunn?
In favor.
Councillor Richardson? Opposed. Councillor Ashmore?
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Elmsley?
In favor.
Councillor Seymour Fagan?
Opposed.
Mayor Letham?
Opposed. 5 opposed, 4 in favor. Motion fails. We just need a motion to 330 Kent Street West be received and the one-time exemption be denied, please. Councillor Richardson and Vale, you'll move that? Thank you. All in favor? That's passed. Item 1243, Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move as printed, and if I get a seconder, I'll explain this one. This is unique.
Councillor Yeo, second. Go ahead, sir.
This one applies. Policy applies on this one, but interestingly enough, we have a maximum cap. Well, actually, I don't know if we have a maximum cap, but we have a minimum cap. We have a minimum cap. And so for some people, $58 doesn't sound like a lot of money, and for other people, it does. Other than that, this is a property owner who lived in her house and had an overreach and went through all the correct procedures to fix it. And but she was disallowed at staff level because of a minimum cap. I hope you support it.
Councillor Yeo.
Thank you, and I do hope you support this one. I explained to the woman at committee that this was a one-time thing, and if something happened catastrophic down the road, and she in fact was billed thousands of dollars, that this $58 would mean she wasn't eligible. But she was adamant that $58 to her was to some of us the equivalent of $5,800. So we granted this, we waived policy, and raise the cap, the minimum, raise the floor, I guess we did. And so I hope you'll support this one. Thank you.
Councillor Elmsley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Director Sutherland, water is a utility. We do have a fund available to help people with utility bills if they are in some kind of distress, do we not?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, there is the Homelessness Prevention Supports Management Directive in the Human Services Office. Was established as part of the Housing Stability Program. It is available for any utility if it meets the criteria under the policy in terms of preventing homelessness or for housing stability where the needs test is met.
Could this person apply in this instance?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, any person can apply, contact our Housing Help Office, and we'll do the assessment from there.
Thank you. Having heard that, I won't support this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dunn, do you want to sum up?
First, I'd like to ask the director a question. When I apply for stability and my income is $100,000 a year, am I going to get it?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is, as mentioned, based on needs test, so it's intended for either social assistance recipients or low income. If it meets the low income threshold, is the needs test, depending on the individual.
So we don't know whether or not she would be able to get her $58 back through the assistance program offered by social services.
Not in this individual case without the application of that process.
Thank you. Just wanted to get clarification there. This one here, everything else applies, except for we arbitrarily set a minimum cap. And, you know, obviously to some people, $58 is significant. And I don't think we should be judging it on that, and we should be approving this motion. Recorded vote, please.
Madam Clerk.
Councillor Seymour Fagan.
Opposed.
Councillor O'Reilly.
Opposed.
Councillor Yeo.
In favor.
Councillor Vale.
Opposed.
Councillor Richardson.
Opposed.
Councillor Ashmore.
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Elmsley.
Opposed.
Councillor Dunn.
In favor.
Mayor Latham.
Opposed. 6 opposed, 3 in favor. Motion fails. Can I get a motion to receive service connection 58 Verna Drive, Little Britain be received and the one-time exemption be denied? Councillor Elmsley, seconded by Councillor O'Reilly. All in favor? That's passed. 12-4-4.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll move it as printed, and if I get a seconder, I'll explain this one.
Councillor Yeo, you are a go-to guy. Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm sure I got more than one go-to guy, but I appreciate it. Okay, this one. Single-family dwelling, the people live in the house. They pay the water bill, but they don't own the house. And in fact, they've so recently that they moved into this house that they haven't got a history of the water bills. Thus, the motion that the recommendation for the high water bill adjustment, the mandatory service appeal, and provide a one-time free billing credit has. We need 3 bills to determine how much it's over, if any. It could be over $500, it could be over $5. We don't know. So the request is these people live in the house, single-family dwelling, not a single-family dwelling? Oh, I know, but they live in the house, and they pay the bill. What I'm saying is when the owners of the property came to the meeting to speak on behalf of their tenants, they told us that the tenant pays the bill. So this is no different than when a bill comes to my house, except for I have a history at my house, so I would know what the 3 time is. Once again, it just falls outside our current policy. Our job is to approve things. We don't approve every application that comes to the high water bill committee. But if in fact the overage stands, the tenant will end up paying the bill because they've signed a contract to pay the bills. I think it's a valid thing. I think we need the 3 billing cycles to determine what the costs are. They identified the problem. They fixed the problem. I hope you support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Yeo, you want to speak to it? No. Councillor Elmsley, go ahead.
I wonder if I can do a follow-up motion after this?
Anyone else want to speak to it? Councillor Riley?
Just briefly, being a landlord, good luck if your tenants all pay.
Okay, so we're clear on the motion. The motion is as printed. Do you want to follow? Do you want to sort of sum up? Sorry. Do you want to sum up?
Sure. This may be kind of tedious, but casting dispersions on people that rent houses is completely out of place. You either have good tenants or you don't. You have good landowners or you don't. There's no indication that these people wouldn't pay their bills. So a scurrious remark about, well, I hope you can get it out of your tenant, I think is unfortunate. And I'll ask for a recorded vote.
Recorded vote?
I would withdraw the remark, but we as landlords took tenants from every walk of life in this community. The John Howard Society, the Canadian Mental Health Society, and every other society that most people wouldn't take them. And those people were very good to pay most of the time.
Requested, Madam Clerk.
Deputy Mayor Elmsley?
In favor.
Councillor Seymour Fagan?
Opposed.
Councillor Yeo?
In favor?
Councillor Vale?
Opposed.
Councillor Richardson?
Opposed.
Councillor Ashmore?
In favor.
Councillor O'Reilly?
Opposed.
Councillor Dunn?
In favor?
Mayor Latham?
Opposed. 5 opposed, 4 in favor. Motion fails. I need a motion for 229 Lindsay Street South be received and the one-time exemption be denied. Angeline? Sorry, what did I say? Councillor Riley, you'll move that. Councillor Vale, you'll second that. Thank you. All in favor? That's passed. 12-4. Sorry, you had a follow-up motion, Councillor Elmsley?
Yeah. My follow-up motion is that staff be instructed to look at the high water bill policy and report back to council on changes that will address some of these issues.
I think what we'll do, Councillor, if it's all right with you, is we've extracted these, so we're going to have a conversation about them. And then at the end, I know Councillor Vale had a motion he was talking about putting forward, but either or, we're all talking about the same direction. So if we can just go through these first out of respect that they're here before council, and then we'll deal with your motion, I'd appreciate it, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. 1245 is the high water bill adjustment service connection for 34 Sussex Street South in Lindsay. Councillor Dunn.
Yeah, I'll move the recommendation. If I get a seconder, I'll speak to it.
Councillor Ashmore will second. Go ahead.
This is pretty much your standard. It goes back to your leaking toilets. For me, once again, it's a fairness issue. Everybody pays into the water system. Not every taxpayer, every water user pays into the water system. And to favor one group of water users over another group of water users is simply unfair. And it's a one-time adjustment. The problem was found and properly addressed, and the owner is seeking an adjustment. I request a record a vote.
Thank you. Councillor Ashmore, do you want to speak to it?
Yeah, this is a case where, well, this meeting, you know, you may think it's a fun committee, but we were there for about 8 or 9 hours, and we don't just give away money. It's not like a free-for-all here. We adhere by the policy. The policy is right in front of us. So when people come, they explain in detail why they need this, and that's why we make the decision for what we're doing here, what we did on that day. And so, like Councillor Dunn had said before, it may not be a high amount of money, but in the whole scheme of things, out of $11.5 million that we bring in. They are customers, and they have asked for this, and we're just abiding by policy. That's all we're doing. And we're granting this one-time relief.
Thank you. Just for clarification of the director, this is a multi-tenanted building, is that correct? 34 Sussex Street South?
That's correct.
Thank you. Councillor Dunn, do you want to sum up, or you're good? Okay, so a recorded vote requested. Madam Clerk?
Councillor O'Reilly,
Opposed.
Councillor Seymour Fagan,
Opposed.
Councillor Yeo,
In favor.
Councillor Vale,
Opposed.
Councillor Richardson,
Opposed.
Councillor Ashmore,
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Elmsley. Councillor Dunn,
In favor?
Mayor Letham.
Opposed. 5 opposed, 4 in favor. Motion fails. Need a motion for the request for 34 Sussex Street, Lindsay, be received and the one-time exemption be denied. Need a motion? Councillor Riley, Councillor Richardson, all in favor? That's passed. Thank you. 12-4-6. Councillor Dunn?
I'll move as printed, and if I get a seconder, I'll explain this one.
Second, Councillor Ashmore. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On this one, it was noted that the water bills were high. The property manager, so it's a multi-tenanted residence, called plumbers in. They examined it. They, I'm just trying to find out. Oh, this is a commercial one. Okay, all right. Yeah, we had a lot of them that day. Restaurant, perfect. Okay, so it's the same routine as with Kelsey's. They've identified a problem. They fixed the problem. These people not only pay taxes, these are actually better than our average customer because they actually consume our product. So their water bills, generally speaking, are higher anyway. But we choose to treat them more poorly than we treat our regular residents. I think it's time that we stepped up to the plate and we started to treat everybody equally. It's just for me, it's just a case of fairness. If Pat Dunn can get a 50% reduction on his water bill, then why shouldn't every other person that also pays a water bill have that one-time opportunity? And we're denying people that opportunity. And I hope that you support this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Ashmore?
Yep, similar to what previous speaker. This business owner came. It's a family operation from what he explained to us. And they spent the day coming here and explained in detail what the problem that they had and why they're asking for the one-time exemption. So just a question, if I could please. When we're talking about all these policies, I'm not sure, maybe I could ask Director Stover, how many years have we had this policy in place? Because we're talking about, we're adhering to this policy. I'm just curious to know how many years this has been on the books.
Through the mayor, the policy was approved by council in April of 2017, and the High Water Bill Committee had its first meeting in roughly this time last year.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, just a couple of years ago, by a duly elected council, brought this legislation in and they passed it. So we're just abiding by it. Thanks.
No, we're not. That's why we're here. We passed a policy, and we're making motions to not abide by it, passed by a duly elected council. So,
well, a duly elected council, the last council, which was duly elected, and they passed this legislation so we could use it now with the new council, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And council has the authority to waive policy. That's what we do. Absolutely.
You're right. Council has authority to not approve this recommendation by this committee.
Yeah.
Which is right. But what I'm saying, the point that I'm saying is that it was put here on our table to use for the committees this committee, which we are members of, and then it comes to council, council decides. So, but it's there. That's what I'm saying. It's there, and we haven't changed it, and we're thinking about changing it in the future. But this is what we have to work with. So,
thank you. Anyone else? You want to sum up? You're good? Recorded vote requested by Councillor Dunn.
Councillor Richardson.
Opposed.
Councillor Deputy Mayor Elmsley. Councillor Vale.
Opposed.
Councillor O'Reilly.
Opposed.
Councillor Seymour Fagan.
Opposed.
Councillor Yeo.
In favor?
Councillor Dunn.
In favor?
Councillor Ashmore.
In favor.
Mayor Latham.
Opposed. Motion fails 5-4. Need a motion that service connection request 79 Bolton Street, Bob Cajun be received and the one-time exemption be denied. Councillor Seymour Fagan, you'll move that? No? Councillor Riley, seconded by, come on guys, seconded by Councillor Richardson, thank you. All in favor? That's passed. 12-4-7 is the last one we have on our report, Councillor Dunn. It's a little bit different.
We're all kind of different. Now, this one here, I actually want to add to the recommendation because the recommendation doesn't fall in line with the recommendation that came out of the committee. And I'm just going to try and find the original recommendation. Where'd it go? Hold on. So I move that the report be received and that, where'd it go? Made a recommendation on the following matter for council to retain the decision make. Anyway, basically what the recommendation was is that the fees be waived for, in this particular case, it was Reverend Grassi at 332 Highway number 36. And if I get a seconder, I'll explain this one.
Seconded by Councillor Yeo. Go ahead.
We've got a bylaw in front of us that's absolutely nuts. And it's just that simple. We've gone out and we've captured 133 people that don't want water, don't use water, and we're saying, well, we don't care. You got to pay for it anyway. That's what we're telling them because the infrastructure is in the ground. And I've heard multiple arguments on this. Well, they gain a benefit if, in fact, the water line is close to them because then they can say that it's there and it drives up their property value. Now, just imagine if Enbridge Gas was able to do the same thing. Everyone along 35 would be paying for gas whether or not they wanted it. It's only of value to people that want it. So I think that is not a valid argument. But anyway, we're going to charge them all with the mandatory fees because we think we should, and we have the power to make laws. In the town of Lindsay, high-rise apartments, and I just asked on one apartment complex, so I only know about one. I suspect about a whole bunch of other ones, but I only know about one. The Crew apartments pay roughly twice the fee of a normal consumer, with 40 units each. We could recover that entire cost by spreading it out to people that use our service, want our service, and actually use it. And if you drive around town and count the number of apartment buildings, it would show you. Now, back in January, we had two great presentations, one by a fellow by the name of Mr. Arnold, and another one by former councillor Andy Luff. They both made completely opposing arguments. Mr. Arnold said, I've got a 6-unit apartment building, and I'm forced to pay 6 user fees. Andy Luff came and he said, I think that people that have secondary suites should have to pay a second fee. So one said charge everybody based on the number of residences, and the other one said charge everybody based on the connection. We do neither because we do both. And we do it completely and totally arbitrarily. You know, we have more than enough resources. The long-time solution to our water cost problem, unfortunately, is going to be the development of the craft property and Belmont, Bormore, you know the one up on the Belmont? Yeah, up at the top of Angela. Ultimately, when we get more units. users. But if you go out Highway 7, for example, there's a couple of commercial farms. Now, they get to pay the mandatory hookup. But if in fact they actually hooked up and ran their commercial operation based on the water, the system doesn't deliver enough water to actually support the business. That line was put in when the water system in Oakwood failed. It wasn't put in for the commercial farms along the way. It was put in when the water system in Oakwood failed. And yet we're telling those people that they have to hook up. It's simply not fair. It's not right. But that's the system that we chose to adopt. And I believe strongly that we've got to change this. We shouldn't be forcing people that don't want water, don't use water, and we shouldn't be forcing them to pay for it. Now, Reverend Grassi was 100% on. He's got to go under the highway to get to his water, if in fact he wanted it. And he's got to, the way it stands right now, he's got to pay the cost. And we may say, well, he can negotiate that when the time comes. But the time he needs the water, if that ever happens, he's not going to have time to negotiate. He's going to need water. So we're putting an undue strain on our residents, where the strain, if in fact we want to do this, the strain actually belongs on the people that have water, want water, and are actually using water. And I ask for your support on this motion.
Councillor Yeo, do you want to speak to it? You seconded it?
Yeah, we're looking for support on this one, and I'd like to see a motion coming to this council soon to rescind that entire mandatory hookup bylaw because it's wrong. Not much else you can say about it than it's wrong. It's morally wrong, and it's just wrong. So support this, and let's bring that bylaw back and burn it. Thank you.
Well, it is a bylaw that was passed by a duly elected council. Go ahead, Councillor Ashmore.
Yeah, I wasn't on the last council. No, I didn't say it was wrong. I just said we're dealing with what. Okay. So what Councillor Dunn said about Oakwood, well, I can't speak for Oakwood, I can't speak for Lindsay, but I know in Omemee that it's put a lot of people through a lot of stress. For example, in the northwest corner of Omemee, Walnut Street, people would tell me their experience and their financial plight and how much it was going to cost to hook up, a forced hookup, which is what it was and what it will be. But I just think that people shouldn't really have to have that pressure to hook up to an existing system. I mean, you know, I know it's there, physically there under the ground, but you shouldn't be forced to tap into that system if you feel that your water is sufficient, your quality and your quantity of water. In this case, in Omemee it is, but I'm just talking about another situation, but it's similar to this here. But I hope you support this.
Councillor Riley?
Well, I know there's fairness and unfairness, but you expect the other people to pay for something that goes by you that you have access to. I think it's issue to Mr. DeGrassi. I had several conversations with him, and there probably is a sense of unfairness to it. But the people in Oakwood that had water and good water had to hook up. That was just the decision that was made. So people, whether they liked it or not, they had to hook up, as Councillor Bill well knows, sort of thing. But anyways, in this particular case, I'm not even sure that this is within the mandate of the committee. This is separate than a normal water bill. This is something that I believe may or may not, but when the policy comes back, we'll review it, but I'm not 100% sure this is even the mandate of the committee on this one.
That's why the original recommendation was just to receive it. It's not under the mandate of the committee, but it's certainly under the mandate of council, which is where it is today. So we can certainly make that motion here. I have a couple of questions, if I might. Do you have any, I mean, we can debate the mandatory, it's a mandatory hookup bylaw. I mean, it kind of speaks for itself, right? Mandatory hookup. Why have a mandatory hookup bylaw if you're not going to mandate that people hook up to the bylaw? So I get, you know, it was passed way, way back. We never enforced it. Now we're enforcing it. To me, this is the one that needs to be denied. This is the one that absolutely, the others, you almost had me on a couple of $58 for, you know, for Verna Drive in Little Britain, but you can't have a policy with 163 or whatever the number is, people who are forced to hook up to this, and everybody pays fixed costs. They don't have to hook up until their system fails. We've already gone that road. and have one person comes forward after all these people have been forced to pay a fixed cost, and one person comes forward and now we're going to exempt them? Are you kidding me? Like, if you want to bring the mandatory hookup bylaw back here for a discussion, then bring it back for a discussion, and if you want to scrap the whole bill, give everybody their money back, but understand what that cost is to the other water and wastewater users in the city, because there's a cost to it. And if you're okay with that, then good. Then we don't need to have this discussion. But we have a bylaw in place. We've put a policy in place. They don't have to hook up until their system fails, but they're responsible for the fixed costs. Everybody's in the same boat, and you can't exempt one person from that, because then what's different from that one person than everybody else? It just, you can't do that. I'm sorry. You had a comment, Director? Sorry.
Sure, through you, Mr. Mayor. I was kind of debating on whether or not to chime in on this one, but yeah, so a few comments based on Reverend Degrassi's comments. He said when he purchased his place in 2007, the bylaw wasn't in place. The bylaw was actually in place in 2005. So it was passed by council 2005 for all residents to connect to municipal wastewater and drinking water systems. This has been systematically enforced and imposed around the province. We are one of, if not the last municipality to put the process in place to mandate residents to connect to our systems. With the 2005 bylaw, it was loosely worded and it wasn't enforceable. So there was a black belt project, again, 2015, that started to look at a systematic approach to having residents connected to the system. Again, primary focus on that is to get users on the system to both protect the quality of the environment and reduce the risk of contaminated drinking water and both septic systems contaminating to groundwater sources as well. So there's a whole series of residual benefits to having people on that drinking water system. But yeah, so 2015, we did the pilot in Fenelon Falls. We exempted a bunch of people. I'm not going to go through all the decisions that were made that led us to where we are right now, but effectively, yeah, the bylaw is in place requiring people to connect to the system at the time of failure of their existing private systems, whether that be a well or a septic system, and mandating they connect. The comment was made about the long side versus short side services. That exists everywhere. Very, very few locations do we have a water main on both sides of the road, and if that's the case, it's primarily because one's a transmission main and one's a local distribution main. Everywhere long side services exist, and I recognize there's cost differences for those long side services, but it's not uncommon. So it is a challenge. I understand the sensitivities of both sides, but yeah, if in rescinding this bylaw, canceling this bylaw, there's significant financial implications to other users on the system, and the goal is to have the other benefits in place with respect to water quality and safe drinking water, but as well as to ensure that our systems are sustainable moving forward.
Thank you. Councillor Vail.
I just had a question. I just wanted to clarify. I think if I remember right, Deputy Mayor Helmsley, did you not make a request for the mandatory hookup bylaw to come back to council for review, or was that, am I remembering that right?
I thought I had.
Was there a time frame for that? I don't recall.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, there was a request. Councillor Helmsley asked to look at long-side services and other connections. I think the timing on that is a Q3 return to council.
Okay. Is that what you wanted? Thank you. Councillor Helmsley, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just wanted to say, we did make changes to the mandatory hookup because it was going to be a mandatory hookup, and we compromised by saying, okay, you don't have to hook up, but you do have to pay the fixed cost because it will pay for repairs and future growth and maintenance of the system and the underground pipes. And it was done because of the trial in Fenelon, where the people were adamant that they didn't want to hook up, and it was going to be onerous on some of them. And there was indeed somebody in Bob Cajun, I believe, where had they had to hook up, it would have cost them somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000. So paying the fixed cost was a compromise in order to get by. Now, I don't disagree that maybe we need to look at that bylaw and tweak it a little bit, but I see some things that make sense, and I see other things that maybe we have to adjust a little bit. So I don't think I can support this one because, as you pointed out, there are so many people who are paying the fixed cost right now because of the compromise we made in the mandatory hookup. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Director, and then I'll get you to sum up, Councillor Dunn.
Sorry, one last thing through you, Mr. Mayor, just to clarify as well, the mandatory connection bylaws, they are requiring people to connect. When we get into instances where people's systems fail and the cost is prohibitive for them to connect, there's still the same mechanism involved to evaluate that and continue to exempt people from the requirement to connect in an indefinite manner. We're not evaluating proactively those 135 properties right now, but let's say, for instance, someone on Highway 35 has a failure to their well and they want they undertake a cost estimate or get a contractor quote, and it's going to be a $50,000 connection. Council has the ability at that time to continue to exempt them from the requirement to connect, but still, again, collect those fixed rates so that the water systems remain sustainable. So it doesn't permanently require the connection. There is a component in there that comes back to council for future consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Dunn, do you want to sum up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I'm going to just try and knock this off in order. The bylaw, it was tweaked in 2015, 2017, whatever, by a duly elected council. I probably voted in favor of it, but I've made mistakes before. Just because I voted in favor of it and not recognizing the unintended consequences doesn't make it right. It just means that I made a mistake. And I think this council should recognize that not only that I made a mistake, but the ones that were there at the time and voted in favor, they probably made a mistake too. So the fact that a council, doesn't mean it can't be undone and can't be fixed and we can't do the fair and proper thing. The mandatory hookups, there's certain portions of it. So when Kraft, I keep on wanting to call it Mason, but when Kraft is built, there'll be mandatory hookups there. They're going to hook up. They got no choice. They're not going to put in wells. They're not going to put in septic tanks. What we're talking about is we're talking about some people that are along highways. And as we expand our system, we're looking at them as a way to generate more cash. We want more. And that's the portion that's not fair. When St. Dave's over on 36 asked for water and sewer and jumped through all kinds of hoops to try and get it, at that point we weren't prepared to give it to them. And we said no. But if they were there today and had established a water holding facility and a way to deal with their sewage, we'd be saying, well, you got no choice. Just because 2 years ago we told you you couldn't, doesn't mean that this year we're not going to tell you you have to. And that's the part that really gets in people's crop. People will put up with an enormous amount of bull doo-doo as long as they think they're being treated fairly. This bylaw doesn't treat people fairly. Reverend Grassi is the first because we just established a way for him to come to a committee and actually complain about it. It's not just Reverend Grassi that's complaining about this. I've talked to people in Little Britain. I've talked to people in Oakwood. I haven't talked to anybody up in Fenelon Falls, but I bet you I could find people. And I haven't talked to anybody in Bobcaygeon. But it's everybody's issue. And back when Councillor Elmsley was raising the issue, I didn't see it as an issue because it didn't affect anybody that I knew. But just because it was wrong then and I didn't take action doesn't mean that it's right now and you shouldn't take action. This is the start. This will get it fixed because it'll open the door. And we have to accept that, and I really hope you support this motion. Recorded vote, please.
Okay, if I may first, so just for clarification then, Councillor, it's that Council approves the recommendation of the High Water Bill Adjustment Mandatory Service Connection Appeals Committee to provide an exemption of payment of the fixed rate charges until such time of failure and or need for replacement of their existing private water supply. Is that what you're moving, that they're being exempted from the fixed costs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and right now it's only one, and you're absolutely right, that if we pass this, at least I believe if we pass this, it's going to open up a floodgate. I think there's going to be lots more people that are going to come forward, but they're just frustrated because they don't believe the council listens to them. But, you know, like I know of at least 5 people that I could reach out, and if they thought it would give them relief, they would come to council and make a presentation. They just, actually 2 of them are here today, backing up Reverend Grassley. They just don't believe it's worth their time and their effort because council doesn't listen.
Okay, but your motion is to receive that memo and
to relieve
them of the fixed rate charges until such time as their replacement of their existing private water supply.
Yep.
So the one, okay, and a recorded vote requested.
Councillor Vail?
Opposed.
Councillor Dunn?
In favor.
Councillor Ashmore?
In favor.
Councillor Seymour Fagan?
Opposed.
Councillor O'Reilly?
Opposed.
Councillor Richardson?
Opposed.
Deputy Mayor Elmsley? Councillor Yeo?
In favor.
Mayor Latham?
Opposed. 6 opposed, 3 in favor. Motion fails. I need a motion that the high water bill mandatory service connection 322 Highway 36 be received and that the exemption of fixed costs be denied. Councillor Riley, seconded by Councillor Elmsley. All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. Okay, let's get a follow-up motion, try and clean some of this up. Councillor Vail had some ideas. Do you want?
Mine's sort of on the fly, and maybe our very excellent clerk can clean it up a little bit. But that council directs staff to bring back a new policy on high water and revisit the mandatory connect bylaw.
Okay, how about this, if I can make a suggestion, that the High Water Bill Committee be put on hold, and requests be put on hold, and that the, can't read my writing, High Water Bill policy come back to council in July for review, not up to staff to form the policy. We have a policy, just bring the policy back here, we'll review it in July, and that any further exception requests, well, we can deal with that after we can deal with that after we deal with the policy. So how about that all requests for the High Water Bill Committee be put on hold for now. Let's get the policy in front of council in July. Let's have a discussion about it, make some changes to it at that time. But not ask staff to do that. We'll make the recommendations here. Are you okay with that?
With that?
You'll move that? Get a seconder? Councillor Vail, do you want to speak to it?
No, I think we've talked about it all day, and where everyone has said it needs to be revisited and some tweaking or changes be done to it. So let's get it back and do that.
Agree. Councillor Vail, do you want to speak to it?
Yeah, just briefly, I agree. It's all been said here today. We all know that there's an issue. We need to review this policy and make some tweaks and changes to this and make sure that it's fair across the board and that it is reflective for ratepayers.
Thank you. Councillor Dunn?
Well, I guess if we deal with it in July, I can live with it. But right now, the only avenue we've left open to our constituencies to voice their concerns about the water bill is the High Water Bill Adjustment Committee. That's the only place they get to speak, because if they come to council, they'll say, no, you have to go to the high water because we have a committee set up for that, just like we don't hear dog complaints anymore. Their only avenue is our committee, so to shut the committee down while we play with this may be a bad idea. So probably in the way that it's currently worded, I can't see shutting the committee down. Certainly bring back a report. I would ask that as a friendly amendment, they also bring back the mandatory hookup for...
Yeah, let's do that one, let's do that one separate, okay?
Okay,
Let's do
all
that separate, because they're two different policies, but I'll just, you know, and I know what you're saying. I guess what I'm saying is, why would you want to hear from somebody with a high water bill when we're still figuring out what we're going to do with the policy? So that's why I suggested in July that it's a quick turnaround. If somebody approaches, we can say, you know what, just put that on hold. We're not saying that we're not going to hear what you have to say. We're just saying, let us adjust the policy first to start having people line up to get a request on their water bill while we're still figuring out how do we want to tweak the policy moving forward. I was just trying to avoid a double doing of the work, that's all. So that was the rationale there. Any further comments on the original motion? Do you want to sum up? You're good? All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. Do you want to do a follow-up for high water or the mandatory service connection? It's coming back in Q3. Are you good with that? It'll be back in Q3, Director? We can have a discussion about the high water bill policy?
That's correct.
Fair enough. Okay, so we're good? You had another question? Sorry?
Yep, I know what it is. Yeah, that's fine. Once again, we're putting it off for another 3 months. Everybody knows the conversation. What we're going to have is, depending on tweaking, if we tweak it at all, we've got another 3 months worth of water bills on these mandatory hookup people that are paying for water and not receiving it. So I am concerned about the time frame. I would rather see it come back in July, and I'd be far more comfortable with that.
I'm not sure if the report will be ready in July, but I guess if we're going down the road that some of the councillors are talking about on blowing up the whole mandatory connection bylaw, then it doesn't really matter if they've paid a little extra. We're going to give them all their money back anyways, I would assume. So, I mean, they might have to pay an extra few months, but they'll get a nice big fat refund check, just like income tax time. So, if we go that route. So, Councillor Ashmore, did you want to comment?
Just going to say, like Councillor Dunn said there, on one of these files here, people that came in, we told them we're going to wait for another 3-month billing cycle. So we kind of throw that all in, it's all out of sync now. So I don't know how this is going to work, but anyways, I just think we should just keep this committee going, but council's wish to do whatever they want. But I just think that we're working with what we have, and that's what I said before. So, and as staff had said during that meeting, some of these examples that we need another billing cycle to get the pattern. So if we don't have, well,
those requests were all denied by council.
Right.
And we're bringing the high water bill policy back in July. So
right.
The 3-month billing cycle is irrelevant. We're going to review it in July, and then we can go from there. The mandatory connection is, do you have a date in the Q3? I mean, can you possibly, just with some of the urgency you're hearing, is there any way to get it back maybe in August?
Through Mr. Mayor, we were targeting the end of Q3. I just looked up the resolution just to provide a bit of clarity. Council Resolution 2019-033 is that staff be directed to investigate the financial implications and potential impacts of the city assuming financial responsibility for the installation of water and sewer infrastructure to the property line, to those properties required to connect to city services, that options to exempt farms or other properties where compliance with mandatory connection requirements are either unrealistic and or cost prohibitive, and that discontinuing fixed rate charges for properties are unlikely to hook up to city services, and that staff report back by the end of Q3. So there's a bit of legwork to do in that resolution. So we were targeting towards probably September-ish to get back with that information. If there's an interest in discussing the bylaw as a whole separate from that, we can talk about that.
Why don't we maybe, what do you think about saving you some work, and why don't we just bring the policy back in July? We can have a look at it, we can see where we want to go, and maybe it exempts some of the work we're asking them to do. We're getting them to, in my opinion, jump through a bunch of hoops for something that we might not even put in place. So how about a motion just to bring the mandatory connection bylaw forward in July for a review at council? And we'll just leave it at that for now, and then we'll leave that motion in place if we want to go there. You okay with that? Councillor Seymour Fagan, you'll move that? Councillor Yeo, second that, and then we'll have our discussion in July. Okay, Council Dunn? All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. Okay. Seems like a lot of work today. Is it just me? No? So Planning Advisory Committee is item 13. We have some correspondence regarding a planning committee. I believe that's the folks, is that the folks that are you guys here? No, you're not? Okay. Not the first item, but we have some correspondence regarding the 20-day appeal period for a garden suite. We can't waive the 20-day appeal period for a garden suite. We don't, that's a policy, we can't do that. I think the folks are aware of that now. We've come to some agreement that we can do some conditional permits and stuff to get them started, and hopefully at the end of nobody should appeal it. At the end of the 20 days, you're kind of good to go. So I think we're all talking the same thing. We're here now, so we can't change it, unfortunately. So I don't think we need to extract anything and try and change it is where I'm trying to go with this conversation. So item 13.2, is there any other extractions from the planning minutes? Seeing none, can I get a motion that the minutes of the June 5th, 2019 Planning Advisory Committee meeting be received and the recommendations included in section 13.3 of the agenda be adopted? Councillor Vail, seconded by Councillor Ashmore. All in favor? That's passed. Okay. Hold on. We're moving over to consent. So the consent agenda I have for extractions this year's, Councillor O'Reilly. So you've got a note. You're the consent agenda. So extracted, I have 14.11. No, we've already dealt with 14.11. Sorry, that was done. The report. 14.12 is the shoreline road allowance adjacent to 8 Black River Road, extracted by Councillor Yeo. And I have 14.17, unassumed roads winter maintenance fee for service review, was extracted by Councillor Ashmore and Elmsley, but Councillor Ashmore extracted it first. Are there any other extractions in the consent agenda? Seeing none, Councillor Riley.
Moved by my second by Councillor Ashmore, that all proposed resolutions shown in section 1.42 and numbered, save and accept. Is it 14.1.2 and 14.1.7?
Yes.
0.7, save and accept. Appear on the agenda as sequentially numbered.
Thank you. Call the question. All in favor? That's passed. So just for you folks, the recommendations of the planning committee have now gone through council, so they're final. Okay? Thank you. Sorry you had to sit so long. Thanks for coming. Yeah, and if you want to talk about next steps, maybe Director Marshall will have a chat with you about just how to proceed from here to try and get that going as fast as possible. I'm sure he'd be happy to have a chat with you before you leave. We'll let you go if you need to. Thanks, Chris. Okay, so first extraction is 14.12, the shoreline road allowance adjacent to 8 Black River Road. Councillor Yeo.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll make the recommendation that the report RS 2019-023 shoreline road allowance adjacent to 8 Black River Road, Dalton be received, and that staff be directed to proceed with advancing the applicant's request through the city's disposition process. We get a seconder, I'll speak to it.
Anybody want a second? Councillor Dunn, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I got this moved to this meeting to go have a look at the property, which I did. And fortunately, I didn't get in contact with the owner, but he was good enough to come today. He does pay waterfront taxes. He is owned as waterfront property. He has a 66-foot public right-of-way beside his house that has nothing to do with this sale. This is the land immediately in front of his house that he pays tax on. So I'm imploring council to support this sale, as they have on the Black River, just east of this property. They have sold river property off in the past, so it's not setting precedent. It is his land. He needs this land to build ramps and stuff to get to the water. He was right on when he said it was just happened to be the same day as the accessibility awards, but that should have nothing to do with this, because that is his wishes, and he just wants to have use of his property he's paying taxes on. So I hope you can support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dunn, you second it. Do you want to speak to it? You're good. Any other questions, comments? Call the question. All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. 1417 is Unassumed Roads Winter Maintenance Fee for Service Review. Councillor Ashmore?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just receiving this, but I had a follow-up motion that we extend the cutoff date indefinitely.
Let's just receive it then, to start with. We can do that, and then we'll go ahead and do your follow-up motion. So motion to receive, Councillor O'Reilly. All in favor? That's passed. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think, you know, we have 132, I think it is, or a little over 130 of these limited service agreements. So I don't want to see this program or the amount of roads being cut off and no more new ones being added onto or even just discussed. So that was just my motion here to extend the cutoff date indefinitely.
I don't think that's what this is dealing with, but let me get some clarification just from the director to make sure. Go ahead.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a report that was requested to be brought back to council by Councillor Yeo, reviewing the potential of the municipality offering fee for service. So it would be residents on unassumed and or private roads that receive no service from the municipality right now, and the city potentially offering service to undertake that work at a fee. This report is, you know, it's effectively recommending to be received for information only, and that service not be offered to the residents.
So it has nothing to do with the seasonal level of service policy that we have, the agreements that we have in place. This is a separate request that was brought forward regarding a fee for service on certain roads, correct?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Ashmore? Councillor Yeo?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank staff for going through the work to write this report. Unfortunately, it's not what I asked for, and I guess I'll receive it. What I asked for was a report that looking at providing a fee for service where the route was a continuation of service. Basically, when we get down somewhere like McGuire's Beach and we stop halfway down the road, turn the plow around instead of going to the end and turn the plow around. Sunset Beach and Head Lake, where the plow comes in the city-owned road and then gets to a hill and doesn't plow anymore or won't plow anymore and gets to the other end of the road and will drop the plow again to the section of road that is unassumed. So that's what I asked for in the report. I didn't ask for the cost to hire outside help to come in and plow all these roads at $280 a kilometer. And I didn't ask how many plows we'd have to buy to do every private road or unassumed road in the city. So it really has done nothing for what I asked for, but I'd like to thank staff for the report. Thank you.
Do you want to do a follow-up motion? We have a motion to receive the report already. That's gone through. Do you want to do a follow-up just with clarification so that can come back in Q3? A continuation, however you want to word it, just so
Yeah,
that there's some-
absolutely. And the way I worded it in the first place, where it is a continuation of service. So basically what that means is what we're doing now. Right now, we go down Sunset Beach and Head Lake and we continue to plow. And it just makes sense. It's just a continuation of a route. We get down McGuire's Beach Road. It makes sense to just go down to the turnaround they built down there, turn the plow around and come back. It's a continuation of service. It's not a road that's out in the middle of nowhere that's looking for plowing.
So how do you want to word the motion is where I'm trying to, I know what
Well,
you're saying, but
I
how do you
made the
want to
motion
word
the
it so
first
that
time.
specifically they know what to come back
I
with?
don't know how else to say it except for the first time I made the motion was where it makes sense as a continuation of service to provide a fee for that service. So that means
So
it's-
options around a fee for service on road continuations where we already plow a portion of the road, something like that?
A lot of them we plow now.
Okay.
So, and I'm not looking for private costs. I'm not looking for how many trucks we're going to take. It's where it's part of a route, or it could easily be assumed to be part of a route. And so I think this is way more than I asked for.
Okay. Does that, Director, just before I get a second, does that give you some clarification and some direction that you are clear? Or we might as well figure out now if we're talking the same language?
Yeah, no, through you, Mr. Mayor, I understand, I think, where the councillor is looking for now. The challenge being with that is those routes are not undertaken by municipal services for a number of reasons. The one was provided on a fee-for-service. We have a bylaw, sorry, it's the council policy in place right now for seasonal level of service that mandates that we don't do that work. So by offering or by writing a report to say it doesn't make sense to go do that work is really a report against a council policy. So we can bring some guidance and some information forward to that effect, but just recognizing that there's some challenges, limitations to that. Many of these roads don't meet a municipal standard, or our plows won't fit down. Where we have been providing service in the past and maybe stopped providing fee-for-service or continuation, we can look at those instances. If there are specific locations that council would like us to review as part of that, that would be beneficial.
Okay, I think we're talking the same, even, and your report can say that it goes against the current policy, but in certain circumstances, perhaps it makes sense, and I think that's where the councilor's trying to sort of find that happy medium, okay? All right, you get are we on the same page?
Yeah, and I guess since we're looking at policy, I'd like that policy brought back for July as well.
Which policy?
The seasonal policy that this all doesn't fit into for council review.
Okay, let's do this one motion at a time, okay? You guys are making me work today. So you have a motion for the, whatever, roads that make sense. Let's get a seconder. Somebody second that report coming back. Councillor Richardson, you will? Any other comments, questions? When do you want that back by? Q3?
Well, before the plow season.
Q3 then? Before plow season, okay. All in favor? That's passed. So you have another policy you want to bring back for review?
The seasonal level service policy that the director just mentioned, I'd like that just brought back for council review. If we're bringing back a couple more.
Brought back in July for council review?
Sure.
Okay. Seconder? Councillor Elmsley? All in favor? That's passed. You don't have to do anything with them. Just bring them forward and we'll do all the work. Yay. Thank you. Got it? That, I think we're clear. Are you clear on that, Councillor Ashmore? You extracted that one? You're good? Okay, so that's 14. Is the correspondence separate, or is that part of the consent?
The correspondence for
Sorry. So move over to petitions, which is 15.1. We have opposition for the erection of stop signs at Stinson's Bay Road and Graham Drive was put into the clerk's office. Several months ago, we had a petition to put a stop sign in at Stinson's Bay Road and Graham Drive. We added it to the list of stop signs, staff did, and then it was pulled from that bylaw because Councillor Seymour Fagan said the residents wanted to get together and discuss the best option. Are you okay if we receive this petition and refer it to the ongoing review that the residents are having before they come back and tell us what they really want, which seems to be a lot of different things? So you're okay with that? So a motion to receive the petition and refer it to the ongoing review regarding this intersection. You'll second that, Councillor Elmsley? Thank you. All in favor? That's passed. Bylaws. Bylaws, any extractions? We need to extract 1718. And we'll do that after, right? We need some additional time to finalize this bylaw, so we're going to extract it and just defer it, but we'll extract it first. Are there any other extractions of the bylaws? So Councillor Ashmore, I believe you have the bylaws. Will you pass that motion except for 1718?
Okay, thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor O'Reilly, that the bylaws shown in section 15.1 of the agenda, namely items 17.1.1, 2 and including 17.1.9, excluding 17.1.8, be read a first, second, and third time passed, numbered, signed, and the corporate seal attached.
Thank you. All in favor? That's passed. And then I need a motion that item number 17.1.8, a bylaw to repeal and replace bylaw 2018-14, being a bylaw regulating the removal of topsoil, placement of fill, and alteration of grades, be deferred to the July 16th, 2019 council meeting. Councillor Elmsley, Councillor Vale, all in favor? That's passed. That's our bylaws. We have no notice of motion. We do need to go into closed session to deal with some issues, so we'll take a 5-minute break, and when we come back, we'll go into closed session.